Good evening. Welcome.
Good evening, sir.
We have fewer people today. I do not know what is the reason, but I hope that the rest will join us. Today, we have a very interesting subject, a subject that holds the key to generating solutions which are extremely affordable, extremely frugal, extremely accessible, and at the same time, in many cases, very sustainable. Okay, Kavya Rasan, I understand. Welcome. So we are going to look at how traditional knowledge plays an important role in our life and how or why we should build bridges between the formal and the informal knowledge system, something that Honeybee Network has been trying to do for over 3 decades. And in literature, in history, this has been done for a very long time. There was a book by Ganga Bhain Yagnik. We have republished it. First published in 1898. The title of the book was Hunnar Mahasagar. And she had put together 2080 solutions collected from the community. So, and then it was in Gujarati, of course. We have translated it into Hindi. So if some of you want, this copy is available. A book is available. And why did we do that? Because it showed that even before we started this process, there were people who were keen about learning from the communities. She was widow at the age of 14. She put together this book. It is said that even Gandhiji got inspiration from this book about the knowledge of the society, because she was pioneer. 1898. It is said that 1,000 copies sold in 3 days. At that time, so this is an example where there have been pioneers in our society, though not recognized very much, but who have been instrumental in bringing the power of community knowledge, traditional knowledge, indigenous knowledge. By different names, people use this word in solving our problems. We had circulated a form, and only about 50 of you have submitted. So what I think is that before we start the discussion, wouldn't it be a good idea, those of you who have not filled up an example of traditional knowledge with or without possible scientific explanation, may like to add to the form that has been circulated and the chat. Both the form is also, link is also given, and the spreadsheet link is also given. So if you fill the form, then there is no restriction on how many people can simultaneously fill it. It will show up in the spreadsheet, whichever way you want. The links of both form and the spreadsheet are given on the chat. You can find Megha has shared them. So please switch on your videos, first of all of you. Please switch on your videos. Aman, Prajakta, Monica, have you submitted an example of traditional knowledge already? Monica, have you done that?
Yes, sir, I have submitted.
You have done it. Devinder Pal? Well, we will share the sheet in a minute. But I just thought that if there are many who have not in the class today, would they like to get 10-15 minutes to fill it up? Would it be all right? Yes, Pratibha?
Yes.
Yeah. Anil, Raghuraj, have you submitted?
Not yet, sir. I will submit today.
Abhi kar do. Nahi.
Yes, sir.
Abhi karo. So
Okay,
we will take 15 minutes. I will request, if you fill up the form, then everybody can work together. No conflict will come. But if we fill up the spreadsheet, then there may be a little bit of difficulty because many
I submit this.
those who have done very well, you can maybe give a comment on somebody else's practice. Those who have already submitted, I request them to use this time to comment on others' practices in this sheet. And those who have not submitted, please do it now. Please do it now.
Good evening, sir.
Yes, yes. Good evening.
Sir, actually, I wanted to fill that form, sir, but I have one seed. I don't know that name. So
You can mention the local name, or if you have a
Okay, sir.
photograph, you can add the photograph, and we will
Okay.
then find out the scientific name. You put on the chat. In the meanwhile, I'll search for it. What is the name?
Sir, locally it's called Careful.
Careful. In which part of the country?
I have seen here only, Karnataka only, sir.
Karnataka. Careful. Is it a fruit or a plant, leaf or a bush?
It's a
or
small
shrub or tree?
seed, sir, seed.
Seed of what? Shrub or tree?
1 second, sir, I'll ask. Ma, ಇದು ದೊಡ್ಡ ಗಿಡದಾಗ ಬೆಳೀತದ ಏನ್ ಸಣ್ಣದಾಗಿರ್ತದ? It's a tree, sir.
It's a tree. Careful, you said?
Yes, sir.
I'll try to see.
It's used to remove the thorns and corn cap we use, no, sir?
Corn.
In legs. Yeah.
Such a corn in the leg.
Huh.
In the feet. Okay, let me find out. But you can write down local name for the time being. And let's see. In the meanwhile, other people can add. I will search.
Sir, hello.
Yes, yeah, go ahead.
Sir, I had filled in the Google form, but it's not showing in the spreadsheet. Should I have to type it again on spreadsheet?
Why should it happen? When did you do that? You filled it up? The issue is not
Yesterday,
the sheet.
yesterday
Megha,
night I had.
Megha, can you check up why is it so?
Yes, sir. I'm checking. Just a minute.
It should not happen. If it is by mistake not entered, maybe when you were entering or you forgot or somebody else, then please enter it again.
Achha, I had got the message, sir, that your response has been recorded
Oh,
in
I
the
see.
Google sheet.
Then it should not happen like this. Let Megha check.
Yes, sir.
I can share this sheet.
Sir, I got it. I could find it.
But all
Yeah,
right.
yeah, it was uploading problem.
All right. Okay, those who have not, please add. And I'm looking for careful. Careful spelling. Please check. Is that the one that I have written in the chat? Is that the one? Careful. And in the meanwhile,
I don't know exactly, sir. It's locally called that name.
Careful.
Yeah. I searched for it, but it's showing something else.
Could it be care tree? I don't know. Let us see. It is not acacia, katachu. Care is the one which is katha, which is used for pan. Is it the same? Can you check up with your mother? Is it the same which is used for brown powder on the pan?
No, sir, this is not edible.
It's not edible.
Not edible.
Okay. Does the plant look like amla? I don't know. I'm sharing one paper on plants of Karnataka. Maybe you can try to search in this. Nobody should delete anybody's entry. Please don't delete. You can add comment on that. Prajakta, just check this list if it has anything of that kind which you're looking for. What kind of seed it looks like? Is it used for?
It's a black color seed, sir. It's almost size of a nut.
Okay, round?
Yes, sir. Like oval shape.
Oval shape. And what is it used for?
To remove thorns and corn.
Okay. No, it is the knowledge of this kind which will get lost if we do not identify and record. That is the whole challenge. A lot of such knowledge is available, but if it is not codified, if we don't document, if we do not acknowledge, we do not validate, then this knowledge will be lost. And future generation would not have access to this knowledge. So it's very important that we record it. And with due acknowledgement of the knowledge provider. Your mother should be credited for having shared this knowledge.
Actually, it's very old practice in our house, sir.
But question is, if it is effective and if it can generate a possible product, there are two ways to disseminate it. One is to, first of all, the forest department, or you have plant in your garden?
No, sir. I have seeds. I can share the photo.
Why don't you share the seed? Share the photo.
Sir.
Has everybody else entered, or you need few more minutes? Kranti, Reena, Devinder, those who have not added, have you added? Rakesh, Madhuja, Rohini. Okay, Rakesh, you've added, all right. Those who have not added, please add, finish quickly so that we can start Let me share this. So I'm not finding in the sheet many. Megha, this sheet shows last edit was 2 hours ago. Is it not refreshed? Megha?
सर ये फ्रेश शीट ही है.
So इसमें दिखा रहा है it is edited 2 hours ago. How is it possible? People are entering just now.
सर मेरे में दिखा रहा है लास्ट एडिट वाज मेड सेकंड्स
अच्छा अच्छा, तो क्या दिक्कत है?
रिफ्रेश कर दीजिए एक बार.
Sir, I not got the seat, sir.
अरे भाई चैट में दिया हुआ है पेज. चैट में लिंक है, देखो ना आप.
Yeah.
प्लीज लुक अप.
सर अगर सबमिशन के लिए सब फॉर्म यूज करेंगे ना वो ही सही रहेगा.
हाँ,
क्योंकि
if you use the form, that is better. Don't please add the link of the form again in chat.
यस सर.
But the number it shows is 49, still 49 only.
Sir, how can I share the photo?
I will make you. Can she share? Share screen. Go to the share
Yes,
screen.
sir.
Go to the share screen at the bottom and press that. Rita, did you get the button? Share screen, green button. You don't share the spreadsheet. You said your form.
आपके साथ शेयर किया है. आपके साथ शेयर.
Right. This is the one. Okay. Looks like. Does it grow on the apple? It's like an apple. I mean, does it grow like a cashew? Okay, Nandini. All right. You have a few more minutes. I will send this to somebody and ask.
Sir, this fruit is called Balakanta in Ayurvedic.
Oh, Balakanta.
Yeah, Balakanta. I think Balatakka. I think the scientific name is Semicarpus anarcadium.
Oh, Semicarpus. Okay. It is Bilwa. Bilwa. It is called in Hindi language, Gujarati language. It's called Bilma.
It's similar to cashew nuts.
Correct. It looked like that. It comes on a apple like a cashew. That is what I was feeling.
Yeah.
Semicarpus indica, isn't it?
So it's commonly used like the way we tie lemon outside the house. People tie this also in Andhra. Like they just put it along with chilies and all, and they tie it outside the house.
Oh, as a good omen.
Yeah, as a good omen.
Semicarpus and anacardium, is that the one?
1 second. Anacardium, yeah.
Yes, I got it. Semicardium. So let us show this.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. This is a very popular plant used very widely. Let me share. So this is what it is. Called bile, Semicarpus anacardium. And this is the tree. The leaf is also given there. And this is found in Kerala, Karnataka, even in Gujarat. Bilwa, Bilma or Bilwa, this is what is called here. It is very toxic actually. If you break it, then it can create blisters on your hand. So you have to use it very carefully.
Yeah, it's very toxic, but has good Ayurvedic use.
Yes. One should use it very carefully. One should use it very carefully.
Yeah, even small, if it touches your skin, skin almost gets burned.
Yeah, it can create a blister.
Yeah.
So we were developing a machine for cracking it, and I remember at that time that it was not an easy challenge to do that, because you cannot touch it with the hand after it is cracked. Little bit of sap comes out, and that is very toxic. So we have to be very careful in using it. It should be used with great expertise. Nobody should try to handle it crudely. Please don't do that. It is a toxic plant. But it is very useful.
Sir, we use a long needle kind of thing.
Correct.
That
That's right.
oil is used.
Correct. That's right. That is very correct. You have to use with a long needle and just put it at the point at which you want to treat. The rest of the skin, you should not be really using it.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Is there a commercial product out of it? I'm sure. Let me check it. But so there is a semicarpus oil is sold on India Mart. So this is the premium grade oil, 110 rupees. Let me show this so that. So you can see this. So it is sold Bilava oil, semicarpus anacardium seed oil, and medicine plant, 110 rupees per bottle. But you should use it with great care. All of these. There is a market for it. Maybe one can find a better way of delivering this, and that's what the challenge is for us. So has everybody, Harshvardhan, why have you put it Pathar Chatta? Of course, this is a very good example. Have you added that?
Yes, sir.
This is a plant where the leaf, if you put the leaf in the soil, then you can get from the leaf corners, the edges of the leaf will generate new plant.
Yes, sir. So it increasing continuously, sir.
Yeah, that's the beauty of this plant, that the leaf itself can be used to generate multiple tissues or multiple seedlings. Every edge of the leaf can become a seedling if you put it in the soil. Just put in the soil, on the soil, not in the soil, on the soil. And you can and the consumption of this leaf is helpful in removing stones. My wife did, yes.
Empty stomach, sir, at morning.
Yes, very effective. Now, the challenge we should ask is whether there is a medicine that has been made out of it. And if not, then why not? That is the question we should answer. Let me check. You also check. I will also check.
Okay, sir.
Whether this has been used to develop medicine. So yes, there is a solution of this sold, I think. Various products are available for kidney, and if you go to online stores, there are a large number of people who are selling this. The question is that some of the traditional knowledge, this is the plant, let me show it here. You must be on the right extreme, you can see the plant. And this is what is being used widely. People are using it, oil of Pathachata syrup. Now, question is whether there can be better delivery system, whether it can be potentiated more by mixing it or by processing it differently. Can it become more effective? What are the ways in which scientifically we can amend it, or blend it with something and improve its effectiveness? That's the challenge that we have. These are the questions we have not asked ourselves. But there is no reason why we cannot do that. So everybody has filled it up. All right. Fair enough. Now let's ask some basic questions and then begin okay, thank you. So we will start with some basic questions and then try to see how under CSIR 800, all of you could, given the time and interest that you have, help in downloading, quote unquote, downloading the traditional knowledge of your grandparents, your parents, your mother, and do a small prior art search to find out whether this knowledge has been already commercialized. If not, can product be developed? And if there is no literature on it, then you can even publish a paper on it with the co-authorship of your grandfather, grandmother, or grandaunt, or parents, or mother, because they have given this knowledge. They are the author, and the other committee members, of course, who may also have some knowledge about it. All of them can be co-authors of this paper. If it is unique and if a family wants to commercialize it and they want to file a patent on its application, by all means do that. We have no problem with that, so long as it becomes available to people and you will let people develop commercial products out of it or DIY solutions out of it. So Pathachata is an example which is well known. You can make it at home. You don't have to buy it. It is safe, easy to consume. I don't know of many side effects of this. It can easily be consumed. It will not do any harm, even if it doesn't do good to you. So there are some such plants which are eligible for DIY solutions, do-it-yourself solutions. But ask the question as to why has our society not paid enough attention to the traditional knowledge? I have argued that the loss of traditional knowledge in the current generation is more than the entire human history. And if you ask me why am I saying this, because the connection between grandparents and grandchildren is the weakest in our generation. My connection to my grandchildren or your connection to your grandparents is not as frequent or as often, generally speaking, as your parents had with their grandparents or your grandparents had with their grandparents, say 6 generations ago or 5 generations ago. So successively in every generation, the link is becoming weaker and weaker and weaker. And therefore, the transmission of knowledge from elders to the younger generation is going down. Our children may not have interest and we may not document it. So if within 20 years, that means one generation, this knowledge will be lost. Every time an elderly person either is buried or cremated, a library of traditional knowledge disappears. It's very important, therefore, for us to recognize that this knowledge must not be lost sight of. There's another reason why traditional knowledge can be very useful. There is a large scale, in some cases, not in all cases, large scale testing of this knowledge by the users. So when there is a healer, and healer would like to share this knowledge sometime openly, not always, but many times, and the users will come and give feedback. I got benefit in 5 days, I got benefit in 3 days, I got benefit in 2 days, I didn't get benefit. Then the healer evaluates and tries to see why this is working, in some cases not. So then he will try to customize the dose or change the formulation. So some kind of experiments are going on. And there is a huge interaction taking place between the user of the solution and the producer of the solution. And through this interaction, this knowledge system has continued to grow. Very little knowledge you will find is existing in the fossilized form. That means every generation is trying to improve this knowledge. Sometimes, and I'm going to tell you something which some of you may not like, but I'm going to mention Why would I mention? Because we don't want such situations. So long time ago, about 2014, we had a meeting in National Innovation Foundation, advisory committee meeting, and we invited a person, Sumitesh Das, I can take his name, from Tata Steel. And a presentation was made of a community from Chhattisgarh, Rajasthan, and Gujarat, a neighboring region of Rajasthan, who used a particular kind of lac, a lac which is used for also bangles and other products, but this lac is a special one. It is not the same that is used for making bangles. It grows on a particular, lac is, insect which attacks a particular plant and produces this material called lac. So this lac was collected and used for polishing the clay pots. And during the discussion presentation of this technology, and it was non-stick edible pan with non-edible non-stick coating. So unlike the coating that you have on your pan that you buy from the market, this one would have no chemicals in it. So that was interesting. So Sumitesh went and told his friends in NML, National Metallurgical Lab, which is next door to Tata Steel. And they said, that's interesting. Could this coating be graphene? Could this be a graphene? So NML was very interested. They asked for the sample, so we sent sample of this lac. They created coating on different surfaces, including glass, and tried to see whether they get graphene kind of properties, which is a single layer of carbon molecules, carbon atoms. So in this case, they first found graphene oxide, of course, because with slight oxidation. But they were looking for whether it could also be a method, a very low-cost method of graphene. Slowly and slowly, the research went on, and then they invited me for a lecture at NML. I went there. I gave a popular lecture for the children about science and about knowledge of people, and I also mentioned about this collaboration. And I was very happy that this collaboration was taking place between NML, Honeybee Network, NIF, and Tata Steel. And look at what happens then. When they publish, they file a patent, they forget about community. When they publish paper, they forget about community. And it was so unfortunate. Community wouldn't want anything. In fact, we wrote to them that, look, you might be happy, you might like to contribute to creating some common goods. That community is extremely poor. So if you create a small school there or a library there, they would be grateful. They're not asking that you don't develop product out of it. And we were not asking for a huge amount or anything. We just said, make a goodwill payment to the community so that community feels happy that they helped in production of valuable knowledge. And you will also feel good about having used the traditional knowledge of the community very well. Unfortunately, this relationship did not produce synergistic effects, did not produce very happy outcome. And I'm mentioning this openly because I also told Satyagare, I'm chairing a committee on TKDL, on prior informed consent. And I said, let us talk about these examples, not to criticize anybody, but just to show that sometime in the short-term interest, we become stingy. We become stingy and don't acknowledge as if our contribution will become less. No, the contribution of scientists who will develop a process which will then generate graphene, which will be one of the cheapest way of generating graphene. We published this also. This was, if you search on Google, you will find that this was widely discussed, this particular finding. And of course, we did try to oppose the patent. And but then we thought that there was no point. In fact, I also talked to Chief Technical Officer of Tata Sons and informed him that, look, this is not a good practice. But for some reason, neither Tata Steel, and nor NML wanted to reconsider their position, which was very unfortunate because there's a whole range of correspondence on the matter, establishing the fact that we sent samples to them, establishing the fact that they learned this knowledge from the committee, establishing the fact that committee provided the lead. Subsequently, they may have found in the literature that use of black for the graphene or graphene oxide. But the fact is that when somebody draws our attention, for example, now if projector's mother drew our attention to semicarpus, assume for a minute that we didn't know that it could be used for removing thorn or core. We may have known its other uses. Nothing will be lost if we acknowledge and respectfully acknowledge the contribution of mother, of our friend, colleague, and thank her. And if she would like to say, okay, share this knowledge with everybody, with her consent, we will share this knowledge with everybody. Because assume for a minute that this knowledge is not known to others for the time being, we are assuming that. Or the method of using it also is not known. Assumption, though it is well known. I mean, now that we know the name, we can say that it is widely known. But if it was not, then we should have not hesitated in acknowledging respected mother of Virta and giving her due credit for that. Many times people are very generous. And a question that Honeybee Network has asked is, why should people who are generous remain poor? And should people who are greedy become rich? Is that the world we want to live in? Should people not share their knowledge openly? Unless somebody else uses it, then the society will not grow. The very fact that our society is very generous, and most societies, elders are very generous, they will share their knowledge if it helps solve the problem. And many poor people survive because they have access to this knowledge for which they don't have to pay. Yes, as a scientist, we can improve the effectiveness of this knowledge. So my purpose of sharing this example, and there are many such examples, let me talk about a positive example. Former director NBRI, Dr. Pushpan Gadan, and Dr. Rajshekhar Reddy, two of them were walking in Kerala with 3 Kani tribals in Kerala who lived in that forest, about 30-40 kilometers out of Thiruvananthapuram. And they found that these Kanis, that means these 3 tribals, were not getting tired. Unlike Dr. Pushpan Gadan, very eminent botanist, and Rajshekhar, who was from TBGRI, Tropical Garden Research Institute of Kerala. So they asked, and they were found that they were chewing some leaf. They asked, what are you doing? So they said, we are chewing this leaf. They said, that's interesting. So can you share with us? They said, of course. They gave some leaves to them. They also chewed it and they got some energy. Arogya Pacha, that's the name they called it up. So they came back, did some research. And they found that it was non-steroidal and energy boosting plant extract. So they've developed a drug called a Jeevani, which was licensed to Arya Vaidyashala. You might have heard of his name, very eminent, very ethical Ayurvedic company. Dr. Warrior and others have been associated with it. Very eminent. They gave 25 lakh rupees as a license fee, 25 lakh rupees with the license and first year's royalty. They developed a product. I have written a case on it. You will find on the Google. If you write Vipo, Anil Gupta, benefit sharing, you will find the whole publication. You can download it freely. Megha, can you put down the link of this volume where this case study is given of Arogya Pacha? Vipo, Anil Gupta, benefit sharing. If you write, then the title will come. And you can give the title in the chat. So the license took place. Then they got 50% share of the royalty. The rest went to the lab. Both of them, look at this. Dr. Pushpan Gadam visited me and asked me, Anil, this is the case, what should we do? How do we share the benefits? I said, well, it is true that these informants were the ones who brought your attention, but knowledge is available with the other member in the committee also. He said, yes, everybody in the committee knows about this plant and its value. So I said, why don't you set up a trust? So they set up a trust in which these 3 people were also members, and they transferred their share of royalty entirely, 100% of it, to the trust. That is the reason why I chose this study. Kani study became a very famous study for the Vipo study that I did, where I took 3 examples, and I'll give you those examples. So it was this drug, Jeevani, was put on the front page of a US magazine for athletics, but this was a non-steroidal. So nobody could ban it, nobody could stop it. It was allowed to be used. forest department created problem, and the other people created problem. But the fact is that the scientists did not take 1 penny out of it for themselves. And the second tranche of the benefits that came, because this drug was selling very well, that was also shared with the trust. So they didn't take 1 penny out of it from the first round of benefit sharing and the second round of benefit sharing. This is the problem. This is the book. This is the one that let's see if it is. Let me just check.
PDF can be downloaded from there.
No. You give the link of the this volume. There's a link of that. Just
Okay.
give the link of that publication.
Okay.
Just give the link of the publication. Don't give this. I mean, if you just write WIPO benefit sharing, and then you just write. This is the one. Let me just show. Yeah, this is the one. I will show you everybody. So this is the study where you will find the whole description. A study on the role of intellectual property right in the sharing of benefit arising from the use of biological resources and associated traditional knowledge. This was circulated to the entire world because this was a study. I went to Mali, I went to Nigeria, I went to University of California, Davis. I will give you an example of those cases which are given in this book. And you can download it freely from the net. And I'm mentioning the link. So why am I not mentioning about the example of, yes, this is the one, Aragyapacha, Trichopus selenicus. Suruthi, thank you. This is one of the early case studies which gives the most gratifying side of benefit sharing, where scientists did not take 1 penny out of the research that they did, and the entire benefit went to the people. Normally they share 30%, 50%, whatever amount. But in this case, 100% went to the communities. And of course, there are many other examples we will share with you, where we licensed a product called as Herbavate to a pharmaceutical company. 6 communities had pooled, our lab had pooled knowledge of the 6 communities in Srishti, and the product was licensed to Troika Pharmaceutical. And for 20 years, they will continue to give us the royalty, and this royalty is sent by money order to the 6 communities every year, 100%. So there was some experience that we had in designing this benefit sharing, where the product can be developed, licensed to the company, benefits can be received. These benefits can be shared with the community. So this is a knowledge-based model of poverty alleviation. It's a knowledge-intensive approach to poverty alleviation. These are the kind of models that I would wish in CSR 800 we encourage more and more, where we use our scientific knowledge to improve the capacity as well as ability to use this knowledge for their own well-being, but also for this larger social good of the world. So this is one case that I want to share with you. I'll share. Yes, go ahead. Yeah. So anybody wants to ask anything more about this, I will be happy to answer. Then I'll go to second example, and then we'll go to the spreadsheet in a minute. Anybody has any question on this, what I've said so far?
Hello, sir. Good evening.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sir,
Yes,
sir, I just want to share that earlier you have talked about the lac produced by the small insect.
Yeah.
I just want to share that there is an epic Mahabharata in which the Kauravas they made conspiracy against Pandavas to kill them,
Correct.
and
Correct.
they made a Lakshagra.
Correct.
Like, and that Lakshagra was also made up of that lac.
Correct. Only thing is that was made to really burn them alive, whereas the lac that you were talking about was used for coating on the clay vessel to reduce the consumption of oil, because then it becomes a non-stick surface. And since it percolates in the pores of the clay, it doesn't scrape off. When you have a Teflon coating, after some time you find the metal surface shows up in the pan, isn't it? So where has that Teflon gone? It has gone into your stomach, but it was not intended to be consumed. So it causes all the other side effects. But in this case, it goes into the pores of the clay vessel. so it cannot be scraped. And even if it were, it was a safe compound. It doesn't do any harm, and it gives you the advantage of non-stick surface. Plus, as the scientists discovered, it can also be used to make graphene. So that was a very high value product, as you can imagine. So it would have been one of the cheapest way of developing graphene. But yeah, I'm happy that you remembered the Mahabharata example where lac has been used for Lakshagraha design. So any comment about the Kani case where knowledge of Arogya Pacha, the plant that has been given on the chat by Shruti? Let me just take it above. Sorry. What was that, Shruti? You had put it, xylem? Forgot the name. Yeah. Okay, we'll come to that. If there's none, then let me give you a second example. And second example is, again, a very interesting, but an example that did not lead to a very positive outcome as I would have liked, but I'll tell you this example. So what happened that there is a wild relative of rice paddy called as Oryza longistaminata. This grows in marshy land, swampy land in Mali and some other African countries. Long time ago, it was collected. It's a very shattering kind. Wild plants generally shatter much. The seeds are not designed to be held closely in the fruit. That is a selection process by which the shattering property of the wild plant will change into fruits and pods that are collected, harvested for economic purpose. But originally, most wild plants are found to be very shattering in nature. Shattering means when the pod matures, this pod opens up and the seeds get scattered by the air around. That's nature's way of propagating the plant. So Oryza longistaminata, the seeds came to Cuttack, Central Rice Research Institute. From there, they went to IRI, International Rice Research Institute. And there, some scientists discovered XA21 gene, which was responsible for tolerance to blight. If you remember, Bengal famine was caused by this particular bacterial disease. So Pamela Ronald, she was a pathologist. She was at that time in Cornell and went to UC Davis, University of California, Davis. She cloned this gene. When she cloned this gene, she got a very positive thought in her mind that why wouldn't the license, if you license it to a company, it was licensed to Monsanto actually, for 3 years. Idea was that in 3 years, if you don't commercialize it, the license will come back to the University of South California, Davis. But Pamela Ronald said, why can't we set up a genetic resource recognition fund, GRRF, where we put the share of the royalty in it and then use it to help the communities in Philippines. For her, the knowledge came from Philippines, from IRI. So she said the students from Philippines could be given fellowship. So we took up this case and I said, let me find out where did this seed come originally. So originally I found it came from Mali. So I went to Mali and went in the field and tried to locate people who knew about it. So there were people from Timbuktu. Timbuktu is in northern Mali. And these semi-nomadic people come to the paddy areas to do harvesting and other activities in farming. And in the paddy areas, Oryza longistaminata was an aquatic weed. I mean, this was a wild relative which was found in irrigation channels, and farmers tried to remove it. They used weedicide to remove it. But this community from Timbuktu collected the seed, which was shattering kind, from the water swampy areas, and they were so poor that they used it for food. They will take it from the water, sieve it, dry it, powder it, and eat it. They had a song in which the writer of the song, one of the elders of that Timbuktu community, had had drawn attention to the fact that these seeds were so strong they did not get any pest. That is very interesting. So they had recognized the property of this seed not to get any disease. So they deserve the credit. So I wrote up all this case, went to UC Davis, talked to the Vice Chancellor of the research, and asked him, would you like to now revise your GRRF? I also met Pamela Ronald. All of this is described in this volume that I have given you the link of, Viper study. And would you like to share the benefits with the communities in Mali, the one that gave us the knowledge about this property of this wild rice, which in turn has given identification of the gene, and then which in turn has been cloned by the scientists and which has now been licensed to a company. The Vice Chancellor said, no, the scientists can do anything from their share of money. University is not obliged to give to anybody. We anyway are doing enough good for the world, and we don't want to give any benefit to anybody. I said, I will have to record it. They said, yes. So I told them, and then finally I put down their view in the report, because that's what they said. Now, here is a case where it was compared to the Kani story of TBGRI, which shared everything to a university, very reputed university, has a lot of collections of tomato and many other gene banks. They didn't want to share anything. This was obviously not very good. They should have agreed. They did not. I consider it as a failure. Third case that is given in this book, which you can download again, as I said, is of Nigeria. So in Nigeria, Maurice Ibu was working with Walter Reed Army Malarial Research Institute in Maryland. So this institute is a defense institute of US. It works on malaria because their soldiers sometimes have to fight wars in tropical countries where malaria is a problem. They were trying to find solutions which were giving a clue about tolerance to malaria parasite. So first I'll tell you a small story. So this was a program called Biodiversity Conservation Through Drug Discovery. And I was a member of a committee which was reviewing this program for NIH and the USAID. And there were different teams which had partnered with the multinational drug companies, and they were working on the traditional knowledge of the developing countries. So there was a case, we asked them, can you give us an example where you collected the traditional knowledge and it didn't seem to work in your lab, whereas it was working with the people? So Maurice Ibu, a Nigerian scientist at that time working in US, said, yes, they came across a case where they found that it was not showing result. They went back to the healer. Healer will say, no, it works. And they didn't find effect. Finally, he said, how do you give the medicine? They said, we give it by injection. They said, no, I don't give it by injection. You feed it orally. Now, when we take orally, there are acids in our stomach. They react to that drug or whatever medicine that you're giving. There's a chemistry which takes place in our stomach. The gastric juices are reacting to the molecule that you have given, and a new chemistry takes place, and that derivative compound possibly was going to show the effect. But the scientists did not pay attention. They gave it directly to the blood. And there, this chemistry did not take place, so it was not showing result. So many times, it is not just important as to what traditional knowledge is used, but how they are using it is no less important. Anyhow, so he had developed a product based on the traditional knowledge. I went to Biafra region. Biafra region, you might have heard of, was under war for a long time because of Shell oil company, which had a plant there, and there was fight going on for a long time between the company and the local community, etc. Nevertheless, we met with the healers and we said, met the lady whose knowledge they had, Maurice Ibu had commercialized it. I said, what would you like to have as a benefit? She was so kind. She said, I don't mind if you make any product, sell it wherever you want, give it to people at low cost, but put my name there. Let people know that I contributed. I and my village or my community are contributed. That I want to be mentioned. That's all. So there are different models of benefit sharing. We will discuss them in a minute towards the later part. But what I'm trying to show is that all the three cases show the relationship between formal science, whether for commercial or non-commercial purpose, and the traditional knowledge communities can be shaped by an ethical framework, both of prior informed consent that we should take from the communities and fair share of benefit. These are the two pillars on which the exchange between formal and informal knowledge system will take place. We all know that so far, ethnobotanists published hundreds of papers, thousands of papers on people's knowledge, brought the knowledge to public domain, did not acknowledge these communities by name. The communities became anonymous. They got no benefit out of it. So much so that when you put their knowledge in public domain, it is ineligible for patent protection. You become parrot. So we took upon ourselves the right, a privilege of putting the knowledge of communities in public domain without their consent and without any benefit to them. This is not what a fair way of knowledge exchange will be. So CSIR is developing a new policy under this committee that we are talking about, which I'm chairing, on how should the knowledge in future by various labs of CSIR be accessed from the communities, and under what protocol should we then ensure that benefits reach the people whose knowledge we have used to develop value-added product. I'm not saying you share entire benefit because you have done a lot of research in it. So you obviously deserve some part. But some part, a fair part, should go to those people. To give you the last point I want to make before we go to the spreadsheet. National Cancer Institute of US. And if you want to know more, you can read a paper by Farnsworth. Dr. Farnsworth spent his lifetime in creating a database called as TAP, a NAP alert, Natural Product Alert Database in University of Illinois. I had the privilege of meeting him, very generous man. He gave me the key of his entire library. And I said, oh, I had one night to spend there. He said, go sit in my lab, my library. Xerox as many papers as you want. No restriction. Take them with you. And I can send you some publication list, but I cannot send you the whole text. You copy whatever you want. Such a generous professor. I'm meeting him first time, and he gave me the key of his library and access to the Xeroxing machine in the night that I could work whole night and go next day. My flight was there. So very, very generous man, very generous man. So he told me about a study that was done by National Cancer Institute where they screened 35,000 plants, 35,000 plants, and found only 5 which were showing impact. Do you know which there was one Indian plant? Anybody knows which plant it was? Can you guess? Anybody? It was from Himalayan region. Among those 5, there was one from India. So much so that it was so much exploited that the whole plant, the tree almost vanished from Dehradun Valley. Texas, Bacata. Now, Taxol you must have heard of. Some of you who are coming from medicine background or chemistry background must have heard about Taxol. This was the plant or tree from which it came out. And of course, Dabur, which was exporting this, excessively exploited it, such that it was almost threatened. I would not call it extinct, but threatened. In the valley, almost all grown-up trees were cut. Very unfortunate. But the point I'm trying to drive home is that out of 35,000 plants, they could find only 5. Now, sometimes it so happens that the protocol that we use to screen the knowledge may not be appropriate. Prachi, did you want to say something? Sorry. So many times the protocol that we use may not be appropriate, and therefore we reject a product, a source of knowledge by using a protocol that was not compatible. So let's say if people, farmers or healers used a plant, fermented it, kept it overnight, or kept it for 10 days, 15 days soaked in water in a compost heap. Why would they keep in compost heap? Because temperature there is about 60 to 70 degrees. when the decomposition takes place of the biomass, temperature increases, it's exothermic reaction. And when the temperature increases, they're incubating it at 60 degrees. They don't tell you that please keep this vessel at 60 degrees because they haven't measured the temperature. But they tell you that we kept it in a composed heat where temperature is roughly around 60 to 70 degrees. We don't do that. We just keep it in the lab on the table. And then we complain that we are not getting effect because we did not pay attention to the protocol that people follow while using this particular method. So method used is no less important than the substance that is used. And the process or the method holds sometimes the key to its effectiveness for proper judgment. So I would suggest that in traditional knowledge, don't be too utilitarian. Spend time in understanding the process. Just as Pujita mentioned, they use a needle. Now, we were all talking about how toxic it is. Some of us knew that it's toxic. So we were worried, how will they use it? Because it can cause blisters. And then she mentioned, why needle? That makes the point very clear, that they will just use enough, a drop of it maybe, just on the point where the corn is. Not everywhere. So it makes complete sense. A very precision, highly precise application of the oil. Now, that's important to know that, isn't it? Then you can find out that it is very useful. Even when you have warts, those small warts are there on your neck or sometimes, that requires the same thing. You can use a needle and put one drop or half a drop on each and they will be cured. I mean, they will be removed overnight after a few hours. So now let's go to any question up to what I have, all the 3 case studies that I shared with you briefly. If any question you want to share, ask, I will be happy to answer. And then we will go to. I forgot to mention that Farnsworth also showed that 74% of the plant-based drugs were used for the same purpose for which people have found their uses. That means connection between the source and the solution was established by the communities through their own experimentation. Scientists merely made this connection scientifically explained and made the process a little more effective, a little more precise. But the basic R&D was done by the communities, which in 74% cases, they knew the problem, they found the solution, and they connected the both. Imagine for making a connection between a plant and its effect on cancer, NCI had screened 35,000 plants to find 5 connections. Here we are talking about 74% hit rate. How much of research people must have done to find those connections? So it is, traditional knowledge has a value, not because just it is traditional, because there is a lab working in society. There's a lab of life, so to say, in the field. People are working, experimenting for years, and they are discovering these solutions, which we should access with great respect and gratefulness and responsibility and reciprocity. Any question, any comment? Okay, now we will share. Anybody can start with an example, we can share the screen after some time, the sheet, but let me first invite you orally. If you want to present on the screen with a sample or something, you're welcome. But please, any one of you can start. I found some very interesting examples, very precise examples. And in some cases, you have speculated on why they may be working. We will not refer to the cultural practices for the time being, social practices. We will refer to the technological ones just now. Anybody can begin and talk about. Yes, Lalit, you want to start? Who would like to start? Anybody? Prajakta, you want to bring any other example, the one that you showed? In addition to that, any other example? I forgot to ask, how does your mother extract oil from it? Because it is so strong. And is there a method by which she extracts the oil from this? I'm curious because we couldn't find any machine to extract oil at a small scale level, which will not split over. So please ask and let us know how did she do that. Can you switch on your videos? Again, I'm requesting all of you. Lagma, Neha has switched on, but everybody else has. Can you switch on? There's no point in talking to a blank screen. Please switch on your videos. Vibhuti, Ada, please switch on. Please switch on. Please switch on. Devyani, Sandhya, Nair, Avasthi, Bhupendra, please. Now, who would like to start an example where you would like to share a traditional knowledge that you find is very meaningful and could help advance the frontiers of science, or at least technology, if not science? Anyone?
Sir, I would like to speak on this.
Yes, go ahead.
I am Virendra Kumar Paliwal.
Yes.
This is related to food we cook in the villages, and their shelf life is too low, but they are very delicious and very meaningful and very low cost. But as we cannot pack them due to various regions, due to legislation regions, those could not be commercialized. Like
We lost your voice, Virendra. We lost your voice. I think your connection got disrupted. Okay, Aishman, Aishman or somebody can start. Maybe Virendra will come back after some time. Anybody else? Nazakat? Would you like to share some example? Gayatri? Piyush? Prerita? Anybody, please.
Sir, one of the example I know a person, so he knows actually how to heal the internal wound, like someone has a joint dislocation and all, and some nerve block is there. He just asks where the pain is, and he just follows by touching it and all. So he's very good at it. But some of my known has gone to him, and they are recovered from it, some joint pain and all. But he doesn't know the scientific reason behind it. He had, I don't know, but I asked him where he had been trained, and I used to work with someone who has a Japanese background, but he doesn't know the science behind it. And whenever I try to ask him, he just teach us, and he's not able to teach us. He just knows. I don't know why. Maybe he's lying. So how to get such knowledge? How to get such traditional knowledge from them? Those people who don't know what they are doing, but they are very good at it.
Piyush, this is a very good question, because this has come up repeatedly. During our show, the Yatras, and I will show you some examples from Arunachal Pradesh, from Nagaland, from Tripura, some other parts of Northeast, just because that region in general and many other regions which are biodiversity-based and forest-based are very rich in traditional knowledge. Somehow our approach of going to people at the time which is not comfortable. Winter, we go to cold places. Summer, we go to hot places. So maybe the method of our approach convinces people that these are genuine people. They are not just like tourists. And the very fact that we show them the examples where everybody is contributed, who has contributed knowledge, is acknowledged in the publications, in the database. We file patents in their name. So maybe that is the reason why probably we are able to convince them a little better. But you must understand, if you were in their place and you have a very effective practice and somebody asks you to reveal that, and that for somebody is not known to you and you don't yet trust them, and the person is not assuring any reciprocal responsibility, that is, if this knowledge is found to be valid, then he will give full credit to the person who is providing it, etc., etc. That kind of a moral contract or a written contract or a video contract is not there, then this hesitation is understandable, isn't it? So there are two parts to your question. One is that they don't know the science. Yes, that is true. In many cases, people may not know why it works, but they may know that it works. So that is true. That is quite true. In very few cases, they may also be able to give you the scientific explanation. The second part is The fact that it works, that is functionally viable and valid, demonstrate that there must be a scientific reason behind it. There are three conditions in science. It is refutable, it is replicable, and it will show the same result no matter who does it and how many times he does it. So it is testable, it is refutable, you can prove it wrong, and it will show the same result everywhere or by everyone, not just by the one particular person who did it. So there is a science behind some of the functional valid practices, as we just looked at semicarpus or other things. But people may not know the scientific terminology or explanation for that. But if you give them trust, if you tell them that, look, this is how we took the knowledge, we documented it, we published, or we developed a product, and this benefit went back to people from that product, they will say, all right, in that case, I'm interested. I will explain to you now. But if we don't promise anything, we don't want to take any responsibility for subsequent value chain, then isn't it fair on their part not to tell us? They have been exploited. I always said that jungle mein, zameen mein, or jal mein, they were exploited in land market, they were exploited in water market, they were exploited in the forest product market. Now the only thing they are left with them is jankari, knowledge. वो भी ले लें हम उनसे बिना किसी reciprocity के. We take even that knowledge without any responsibility and reciprocity. Then what is left with people? Economically poor but knowledge rich. The knowledge rich, economically poor people have only one asset left with them, which is their knowledge. So shouldn't there be a moral contract between us and them, or maybe a proper institutional contract, which should convince them that this knowledge will be utilized according to their conditions and in their benefit, for ensuring their benefit. And if it is not found in literature, because at that time when we're collecting it, we are not knowing how unique it is. But let's say after do search, as we did just now in Semigar, and we found that there was a product, at that stage it will become difficult to give credit to someone, isn't it? Because it's already there in the market. But if it is not found in the literature, in publication or in the market, then the conditions of PIC will apply, prior informed consent will apply. So I would say that it's a matter of trust. Virendra, your link is working now, so give us a precise point. You made a very good point that traditional food are not finding market because appropriate low-cost packaging technology is not available. Is that the point you wanted to make?
Yeah. And the good news I want to share that now government of proprietary foods, and there are possibilities of product developments that could have been in the village level a few years back, and the chutney and product which our traditionally we were doing, and we could not get market due to the shelf life or the technology reason. So chutney, I want to make it precisely. Halwa of gehu milk is another precise that I want to give it and make it a proprietary food. So there are many more because this may be the untouched area for the proprietary food. And,
there are a lot of traditional food products which are coming to market.
Yeah.
The very good example is flax seed. The flax seed was, I have mentioned about it earlier. I will just repeat that example. Flax seed was fed to the horses.
Yeah.
Right? And today, what was for 100 rupees a quintal to 100 rupees, almost 100 gram, it has come to.
Yes.
Can you imagine the value addition? Without any change in the property of the food, just the characterization by the scientist. Characterization by the scientist and disseminating that knowledge that it is a very good source of 3-omega fatty acid, it has become popular and it has demand.
And one more good news I want to add here in the linseed oil only that you are talking, sir, that government has permitted in the blended oil 5% of oil, which was not earlier so. Due to this essential fatty acids, you are talking about omega-3 and omega-6.
Good.
And essential fatty acid means that your body intelligence cannot manufacture those fatty acid inside.
Correct.
The rest
Correct.
of the
Correct.
you eat
Correct.
protein and other fatty acids can be formed and other things can be
So,
formed.
so the point is, Virendra, the point I want to draw from your submission is that science can add a tremendous value to create either the intellectual property or expand the market by characterizing the value of it and sharing that characterization with the masses so that demand for that product can go up and the growers of that product and those who add value can become richer or can become better off in terms of.
These are the right words what you have placed, sir. But my intentions were the same.
Yes, very good point. Very good point. Anybody else wants to start? Anybody else wants to share a traditional knowledge, a specific traditional knowledge from your
Sir,
family?
please permit me one more line. Approximately 25,000 of the food products by new law can be developed. This is a rough estimate. Yeah.
Good.
Thank
Good.
you.
Good.
Thank you very
you.
much.
Yes. Anybody else would like to take a specific example? Please start.
Sir,
Yes.
so actually, during the lockdown, there was this bird that used to come in our garden. It used to eat the leaves of papaya tree. I mean, it left out the fruit and only ate the leaves. I mean, okay, this is like a common knowledge now, not a very common knowledge, but still it has been proven that papaya leaves help in increasing the platelet count. But I think other than our grandparents and other things, we can also learn from these birds. Actually, that bird all
Very
the
true, very true, very true. We published an article in Honeybee many years ago from by a Japanese scholar who observed the behavior of chimpanzees as to how did they treat themselves in the wild when they got sick. And there were specific herbs that they had identified. I'm very curious about what you noticed. I never heard that birds would find papaya leaves useful, but it's a very interesting observation. I don't know whether you mentioned to me or one of you from IIIM mentioned that they wanted to work on papaya and which other leaf for dengue. And I said, by all means, work on it because we don't have a product as yet. We have a traditional knowledge. People start finding where the papaya is growing. They collect leaves. Scientifically, it is proved that by consuming papaya leaf, your platelet count can go up. That is beyond doubt, correct? But we have not had a product come out so far. So when this group suggested to me today morning, today afternoon, I saw the mail, I immediately said, go ahead. Who was that? Is there anybody in the class?
Yes, sir.
Sharing.
Yes, sir.
Good evening,
So you
sir.
were the ones who had that idea?
Yes, sir.
Can you talk about it? What do you want to do? Please mention.
Yes,
it.
sir.
Yeah.
Sir, actually, we are planning to make a herbal formulation out of giloi and papaya,
yes.
as well as goat milk in the form of a dry powder, because these constituents have been scientifically proved to increase the platelet count. And in Jammu, in the last 1 month, there have been a lot of dengue cases here. One of our group member, her name is Diksha, she suffered from dengue, and I bought the giloi stems from my house, and she took goat milk powder, and her platelet count increased in a week. So we were discussing about this thing in the evening today. So that's when I mailed you regarding this.
Wonderful. I'm so happy that you did it. But this is the kind of positive opportunism where you have a personal experience and not you. Large number of scholars sitting in this class might be aware of the papaya leaf used for dengue. Isn't it? Is it true? Anybody else can confirm this? Nitin, Rakesh, Upendra, Shobit?
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Yes, sir.
But tell me one thing. Why did Anjali think about it and not anybody else? That's the question I want to know. You have used it. You have found it useful. But you know that not everybody can access fresh papaya leaf easily, in cities particularly. So,
good evening, sir. Sir, if we make a formulation out of it, we can make it more accessible in the urban areas where everyone is not planting
There are
giloy in their house.
there are 2 or 3 things that you could do. One is you make a formulation. Second, can you find a method by which if papaya leaf is given crushed, soaked in water, boiled in water, in chutney form, fresh?
Planning
No, they are
to,
different. So what I'm saying is there are 2 dimensions to it. One is a commercial dimension, where you develop a product, license to a company makes it, sells it in the market, people can access it. That's one route. The second is, can you find some DIY solution? Can you tell me that how can I preserve the properties of papaya leaf or its extract for longer period so that I don't have to get the fresh leaf every time? Secondly, how much dosage I should use? Nobody has told me that clearly, no? So if I take a 1 leaf, how much of extract should I make? How much dilution should I make it? How many drops of that or how many spoons of that I should take? That I will have sufficient effect. So how to keep it functionally viable? Does it require to be kept in refrigerator? Can it be kept at room temperature, etc., etc.? So you can look at both dimensions. Look at the DIY dimension. Look at the formulation dimension, and then tell me that if I take only papaya leaf, this is the benefit. But if I combine with giloy extract, then this is the benefit. If I combine it with third thing that you mentioned, what was the third thing you mentioned? Giloy, papaya, and
Sir, goat milk, but it is actually not available everywhere. So we are planning to make it in the dried form, powder form.
That's very good, because goat milk is also useful for cancer. If you read the papers, you will find, and it has a very good property for regeneration of the cells. So now this is very good. I mean, I will be very happy through this course if some products come out, or at least some good validation studies come out, or even good validation reviews come out, so that people's faith in the functional knowledge increases. Next, please. Sharing, you wanted to share something?
Good evening, sir. I want to add something. My name is Diksha Kumari. I'm from CSR Triplan Jammu.
Okay.
So I was suffering from dengue last week, and I have a personal experience of using this papaya leaves extract for my recovery. So I realized that the paste, or when you use it in the grinded form, it is more efficient as compared to when you use it when you like heat it with the water. And the quantity of water, like if you use 1 liter of water, you have to concentrate it in such a way that it becomes 200 ml or so. We have to concentrate it very much. And moreover, it is very very bitter in taste. So we were expecting and thinking of adding something that add value to the product and also add taste to the product, so that even if the children want to consume it, they can easily consume it. And also to add something that can, or we can protect and kind of thing that can increase their shelf life as well, because these
if you can freeze dry and put it in a capsule, then the bitterness would not affect, of course. I mean, you can, yes, that's
so
right.
this can be a good idea.
Good, very good. I'm happy. There are so many scholars, scientists I know personally who have benefited from this practice, but none of them took this step that both of you are taking this step now. This is the kind of impact we want to make through this course, where the functional and viable knowledge of our society will produce results not just for India, but the whole world. And we will be able to create a value and a culture. And we should acknowledge it. In this case, it is common knowledge, so I understand. But if you develop some new method or process of delivering this medicine more effectively, should it be taken in the night? Should it be taken after food or before food? There will be obviously some more thinking which will be required behind it. You will have to consult some Ayurvedic experts also, who may have, because giloy is something which I use in the morning. I soak it in the night. In the morning, I boil it and take it every day. So giloy is very useful for immunity boosting, and it has many other properties. So it's called almost like a number plant in Ayurveda. So you should talk to some Ayurvedic scientists also while formulating the product. They will tell you what proportions of each might be useful. You can discuss with them. Yes, Sharing, please. You were trying to say something and you couldn't. Go ahead.
Yes, actually, we are four people. I'm working with Anjali and Diksha, and we are planning if we are looking for other plant products also, which can be used with this to increase the its quality or the effectiveness.
Somebody's mic is on. Can you switch off? Can you switch off? Let only Shring speak. Who is somebody's? Please go ahead, Shring.
Good evening, sir. So actually, I'm working with Diksha and Anjali. We are a group of four people.
Acha.
So we thought about this idea of milk goat and the other one. But we were also thinking about the garbage one also. How
What's
to
that?
garbage household waste also.
What's that? I couldn't follow. Can you repeat?
Household waste, sir.
Acha.
So currently we are working on this one, sir. We are looking for the other alternatives also regarding this one.
Okay. So it is very useful if you can find some good carriers. As you mentioned that the paste was more effective than the extract. That's a very good observation. And I didn't know what was the form in which it should be given because my neighbor had twice this dengue and I have a lot of papaya plants in my home. So they come and collect the leaves. But I couldn't give them any advice as to how should they consume it. So your study and your review will be very meaningful.
Yes,
If you also first make a table of the forms in which currently the research tells us its effectiveness. So that's you summarize the prior art. What is the knowledge that we have? And then you share with us what you do. Third thing is you can speculate. You can have a table of speculation. You can say these are the ways in which further research needs to be done.
Yes.
So that you can your paper will then get cited more whenever you direct the research. More people will cite you because they will then get clue from you as to what are the ways in which this research needs to be taken forward. But I can tell you the solution that you will work will affect millions of lives, millions of lives. Dengue is becoming extremely epidemic in proportion in our country. And we found that the symptoms of dengue and COVID were overlapping in some cases. You might have read about that. And this is a new phenomenon. I do not know what, but maybe the dengue, the mosquito is also carrying the virus. I have no idea, but doctors have told us, we have seen the reports that symptoms sometimes are confusing between dengue and COVID. So there is something happening in nature which we are not fully assured of, but it will be useful. Giloy is good for even antiviral, you know. So that's a good choice that you have made. If there was a case for viral diffusion through mosquitoes, in case there was an effect, then Giloy would help in that also. So good. Next one, please.
Thank you, sir.
Next. Who would like to be the next? We will take one more example before we have a 5 minutes break. Or 7-minute break. Ayushman, Upendra, Shobit, Devinder, would you like to share? Anybody would like to share? Yes, Sarvjot, please go ahead. And then I'll come to Shobika. Sarvjot? Sarvjot, are you here? Please go ahead.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Good evening, sir. I'm Sarabjot Kaur from CSIO, Chandigarh. There is a common practice that is casting evil eye, either by burning red chilies.
Mute. Bolo. Yes. Sarabjit, go ahead.
Yeah, sir. There is a common practice known as casting evil eye, burning red chilies. That is a very common practice, a traditional practice.
But it could also be superstitious. I don't know whether there's science.
Yeah, but there is a science between. Yes, there is a science in this. Like when people feel like headache or heaviness or choked chest, old people say that you got caught with evil eye. So they do this red chilies. So basically, by burning red chilies, there is a compound known as capsaicin that is released. So that has an aromatherapy that deactivates our TRPV1 gene, that is a pain generating gene. That gene generates a protein that cause pain. So when this component is released in the form of aroma from the red chilies, that suppress that activation, and then we get a pain relief. And people say, like old grandmothers and grandparents, they say that nazar utar gayi.
Yes, yes, I just found this paper which
Yes,
talks
exactly.
TRPV1 pain alarm. So
Yes.
nociceptive receptors, here TRP1 receptors should be enough, as it stands for transient receptor potential vanilloid 1. There are actually few such receptors or iron channels for transient receptor potential. They can be found throughout the body. They fulfill various roles, etc.,
Yes.
etc., and so on.
Basically, it acts as an antagonistic to this TRPV1.
Correct. How
Yeah.
the activation of the TRP1 works. Very interesting. I can put this reference to everybody. Good. I didn't know this. I mean, I'm happy that you pointed out this. And very nice, very nice, very nice. This is the approach we need. We should go beyond just the. I mean, we can dismiss it. I was about to say it is superstitious, and I held back myself for a minute. And then you said, no, there is a science, and I said, well, maybe I should check. Good that you mentioned this, because we need. I'm not saying there are no superstitions. There are many superstitions in our life, and we should sift chaff from the grain. Unless we find the scientific basis, it will not be proper for us to go by. But I'm happy that you drew our attention to the potential benefit. I have seen my Nani doing that, and many of you must have seen this.
And the other part of this is that this burning red chilies, it has a anti-inflammatory and antimicrobial activity. So the aroma in the surrounding, when it burns, so it reduces the infectious microbial load in the environment also. So it acts the other way also. So it
that
kills the
means in
infection.
Rajasthan and other places where, in Andhra Pradesh, where they take a lot of chilies in their cooking. I do not know whether they add chili before cooking. That means the aroma comes, or they add afterward. That I am not sure. I'm not a very good cook, but some of you might know. So when it is put in before, but while cooking, in the initial stage, it will produce more aroma than if it is added in the last stage. तड़का लगाते हैं ना चिली का.
Yes.
जो तड़का लगाते हैं उसमें वो जो fumes आती हैं. Oh my God! So they are almost like inoculating you every day with the antimicrobial aroma.
Yes.
That's very interesting. Very interesting. One more reason why I didn't like chilies. I mean, green chili I like, red one not. But now there's a good reason why you're giving me why a little bit of red chili is okay. Good. Very nice. Anybody else, please? Yes, Shobika.
Thank you.
Good evening.
And I'll come to Pranita after that. Yes.
Yeah. Sir, actually, my real brother committed suicide some 4 months ago.
Oh.
And he was working as director in Indian Institute of Packaging. So everyone was shocked, but I want to work upon this particular mental health and depression related areas. And one of the reasons that I found was his lifestyle, particularly his habit of sleeping very late in the night, working till late in the night, and getting up late in the morning and then rush towards his profession.
So, Shobika, this is a very important question. There have been studies done. There was when farmer suicide took place.
Yes.
There was a committee. I was asked by the DST to visit the areas where farmer suicide took place in Maharashtra and try to ascertain what could be the reasons. So I was doing a literature review, and I found that in Sri Lanka there were some regions, and also there were some regions, Arizona and other places, where suicides were a little more rampant than others. And one of the element which was found responsible for it was lithium. So if you study the role of lithium,
yes,
and its effect in the brain, then some regions where the water contains lithium, and if you are or there is some other leaching effect of lithium in our food system, somewhere it is coming, which we need to study, then it somehow stimulates the depressive conditions, which may cause sometimes this unfortunate consequence. There are some other studies also like that. So, Shobika, I would suggest that it's very painful to hear what you said, but if we can learn something from this,
Yes.
and try to understand as to why some people give up or some people, we know serotonin level also, imbalance of serotonin in our brain also causes this problem. So there are several reasons there are several physiological based reasons apart from psychological ones,
Yes.
which could exacerbate the psychological situation. I mean, physiological processes which exacerbate the psychological processes, which may then lead.
Traditional knowledge practice. My mother used to, she's still very calm and composed lady. And she uses to get up very early in the morning, around 4 a.m. And
Yes.
she gets to bed by 9 p.m.
Yes, I try to sleep around 10 o'clock. Someday I'm late and I feel very bad, but I get up around 4:35, which is a recent development. Earlier I was
This is called
doing
Amrit
exactly
Vela meditation. And
what your
there is
brother was doing, and I must say that.
Yes, there
Yes,
are
it is.
scientific evidences in this also, because some chemicals are released, happy hormones are released during this duration between 4 to 4:30 a.m. That is called Amrit Vela. Yeah. And sir, as a societal project, I also wanted to discuss that we are a group of 5 students, and I have studied something related to PhD scholars. They have been facing very much stress and burnout. There are time pressures, there are financial pressures, work-life balance, difficulty in publications, etc. And especially after COVID, there are many uncertainties. For example, decrease in frequency of meeting with mentors, having less availability of lab resources. So this all in total, the mental health has been very much deteriorating. My brother was also pursuing PhD. So what we can do is we can firstly have a pilot study in CSIR, CSIO Chandigarh itself, to find out the levels of depression, stress, and anxiety among the students, PhD scholars. And then we can plan some tele-intervention, maybe meditation intervention. We can have Raj Yoga meditation, for example, because it's totally free of cost for all the students. So we can plan it for 8 to 10 weeks, and then the assessments may be taken with the help of some cognition softwares such as Pebble, or maybe we can also take with EEG device if the subjects are available with us. And we can establish a relationship between meditation practices and its effect on cognition.
So I was just showing that study, which has the receptor for GABA is underrepresented in the frontopleural cortex of people who have major depressive disorders leading to suicide.
Yes.
So, but they are saying epigenetic factors. That means there are environmental factors which affect the relevant genes were expressed, that is made into proteins, and they are giving the reason that in the frontopolar cortex of suicide brain, the gene for GABA A receptor often had a molecule called as methyl group attached to it. The team found when a methyl group is attached to a gene, it keeps the gene hidden from the cell's protein building machinery. So this is a very important study that you must see and review in your work. This from Scientific American that I'm referring to. And I would expect you to bring that kind of depth to this subject. There's a paper by New Genetics of Mental Illness. So look at the genetic basis, look at the epigenetic factors, look at the environmental conditions, and then put all of that together so that we can see how the depressed suicide victims have suffered various reasons which cause these kind of events. So it's a very important problem, but don't leave it at just the journalistic level. I mean, bring the depth to it, review this literature, and show us what is happening here. Shall I? You can find this paper, but let me give you the reason once again. This is Scientific American, 2009, February 1, Origin of Suicidal Brain. This is the paper. So please look up this and then study this. I would very much wish that you do a proper study, because this is becoming a very serious problem. We don't want anybody to suffer from this. This is the paper. The origin of suicidal brains. What causes this problem? And there are many more studies are done afterwards,
Yes.
which will include the factor that you just mentioned, that by delaying the sleeping time, my mother used to say, and my grandfather used to say that 1 hour sleep before 12 o'clock is equivalent to 2 hours sleep after 12 o'clock.
Yes.
So, this is a colloquial way of putting it, that sleep early and you get better sleep. You also know that there are cycles of sleep, different reps. And there are a lot of studies done on brain, and they found that the certain cycles, very high rapid brain work, which then goes to rest quickly. Whereas if you go later for sleep, then it takes much longer to get the same cycle, a REM cycle for. So it's like a random access memory of your brain. How does it get? Caches get deleted and mind gets treated. So I think one reason why people who sleep late, their cache is not cleaned.
Yes, sir.
Their random access memory is not cleaned. And they complain about it, but they are responsible for it. They're not paying the attention to random access memory of the brain.
Yes, sir.
So
Sir, they are switching on TV, they are watching on their mobiles and laptops.
You should realize that you have
Increasing
all
the
the
cache.
day to do what you want today.
Yes, sir.
Please plan your day better. Mornings and mornings. Yes, Pradita.
Sir, I just wanted to add a little bit to what Sarabjot said regarding the benefits of chili powder.
Yes.
I remember my grandfather telling me that in earlier days, they used to apply it on dog bites as well to avoid infection to the wound. So that is also an area wherein red chili paste was used.
Right. Sometime for democratization of knowledge, we should take the common substances and make a tree of its possible applications. Say chili, different uses of chili, and different pathways through which it works, and then put scientific footnotes to each node of that tree, or each branch of that tree, so that if somebody wants to read more, they can go to the footnote and read more. But this one-page summary of what chili is all about in terms of scientific knowledge and its effectiveness will be a great contribution. If you publish that for common knowledge and put it on a website or blog, so many people around the world will change their perception about what community knowledge is all about, isn't it? So I think what you said is very true. I do not know, but chili wound healing, I have not, but yes, of course, chili can have effect of It'll be nice to read a little more about it. I'm not finding something very specifically. Chili, of course, has vitamin C, and that has its own contribution, but it'll be useful to find out what else is the reason for chili to have a role.
Carminative properties are there in chili.
Sorry?
कार्मिनेटिव प्रॉपर्टीज, भूख लगने का बहुत ज्यादा अच्छा प्रॉपर्टीज हैं उसकी, और नेट पे अवेलेबल भी है.
But I was looking at, yes, this is the paper, Review of Effect of Capsicum and there are papers, but somebody needs to put them together for, in this paper you have anti-cancer, anti-diabetic, lipid lowering, anti-hypertensive, anti-obesity, red pepper with scientific name. This could be useful. So I'll just put it down. Those who are doing work on chili may look at this paper. But you see how much work is there to be done. And yes, Anil, turn is yours now, but I'll just say, Pradita, don't leave it here. If you really want to do justice, you said your grandfather told you that?
Yes, sir.
How do you show your respect to grandfather? By not treating this with respect in terms of doing more work on this sake of his. How do we pay respect to elders? They don't want anything in return. They just, if you develop a small blog on that or a small paper on that and show it to him, you will get tons of blessings from him. Isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Do that, please. Do that.
Sure.
Because this is what we can do. Our way of respecting our elders, among other things, is by taking their advice critically. No, don't accept what they say. Critically, scientifically. And only when you get good evidence of that, then go back and tell them, touch their feet and tell them, Dada, Baba, you told me this, and I have got these many references to establish what you told me. Of course, you told me through your experience, empirical experience. I learned it by studying science. But thank you so much. Tell me more. And then this tree will start growing. Yes, Anil.
Right.
Sir, a few months back, I also fell to corona and I was in period of isolation. And I used to take Giloy. And at that time, I don't do any experimentation. I just what people supplied me, I chewed that stem only. But as I come out of isolation, I collected the Giloy and then dried it. And I have made powder and supply to other old age person as well. And they have told me their own experience of getting some good immunity booster of it. So my project for this work is I want to work on the how to increase the efficacy of this Giloy for increasing the immunity in case of these immunity related diseases.
So my suggestion is that if you take up this, there are some studies which have been done by Ayush. Okay.
Yes, sir.
And there are some of them are scientific, but many of them are not so scientific.
Yes, sir.
So we need scientific studies. We need to put together the science. All right, and this has not been done adequately.
I myself have taken it during my corona period.
No, you have taken, and I have been taking regularly. In between, I gave a break of 1 month. And I found that it was not nice to have a break. So I'm resuming it from today. I've already got it from our lab, and we are going to. But what I'm suggesting is that if you can put together the literature on the effect of this for what pathways of corona does it work on?
Okay.
Does it inhibit the spike protein? So does it, for example, there are several ways. One is that I will not spread corona more if I'm taking Giloy. That's one possible direction. That the virus will become less infected.
Oh.
Second is its multiplication may come down. The amount of virus already I have in my body, that will not go down. But the rate at which it multiplies will go down. Third is that possibly the effect of virus on my healthy cells will not be affected, will not be spreading, but the cells which are already affected by it, they will get regenerated, or they will get it. There are many ways in which it can affect. We need to know the pathway. And this is where Ayurvedic text will not be able to help us. It is the biological scientists like you will have to bring out that. So please put together and review the studies that have been done. If you want to get in touch with some people in NIA, National Institute of Ayurveda in Jaipur. Where are you based, Anil?
I'm CSR IIIM Jammu.
Okay, so Jammu, I can connect you to Dr. Arun Chandan. He's in Himachal. Jammu has a lot of Ayurvedic scholars, and I'm sure you can find some very knowledgeable people who will help. But if you want, I can connect you to both All India Institute of Ayurvedic Sciences in Delhi, the lady who's director, Naseri, Dr. Naseri, Tanuja Naseri, she's the director, and Dr. S.K. Singh at National Institute of Ayurveda in Jaipur. I can connect to them. You can discuss with them, and they will tell you the Ayurvedic pathway. You can try to find out the physiological pathway and involve them in interpreting what they know from biological route. So I think this will become easier for you to then, because you can't go into all possible directions. But there are some directions that Ayurvedic people have already figured out, but they don't know the biology of it, which you can figure out.
So I can tell them some chemistry, what I can have, and then they can tell me the biological results.
Correct. That's exactly what I'm saying. Send me a mail and I'll connect you to both.
So I will mail you as soon as possible.
Yes. Yes, Piyush, you wanted to say something? Unmute yourself.
So according to Pranita, I just made my I had a dog bite in my when I was a child. So everyone in I was at my relative's house, so they just came with the chili powder and I ran away. But yes, the dog bite, and I didn't even feel the jealousness when they put the chili powder on my when the dog bit me. So that's actually you don't feel pain when you're supposed to feel pain when there is a chili powder on your injury, but in case of a dog bite, you don't feel pain. And yes, I need
so that means the dog bite creates some sensory blocker. The saliva of the dog may have some sensory blocker. So what happens, but actually speaking many different, it's very interesting what you say, because it is not that the pain goes away. It is the communication of the pain to the brain goes away. You see, So brain doesn't receive the signal that there is a pain here. Many modern medicines actually do that. They don't remove the pain. They only block the signal of the pain to the brain. So it's very interesting from what you're saying. We should look at the blocker of the signal to the brain in the saliva of the dog. And what chili does, that after some time, maybe you start feeling pain, which means that the signal has been resumed and the medicine is working. I mean, this will be a very interesting direction to work at.
And sir, one more thing. I don't know how many people knows about dogs. So there is a saying in our rural area कि dog को अगर neck पे कोई घाव होगा तो वो मरेगा, otherwise कोई भी घाव उसको कहीं भी body part हो जाए, it will heal. मतलब उसका जीभ जहाँ तक पहुँच सकता है.
So again, repeat what you say.
So the dog, whenever he gets injured or it gets an injury, so its tongue should reach that place so that it can lick it. तो ज्यादातर आपने डॉग्स को देखा होगा, उसका जो नेक का इंजरी होता है उसी पे वो मरता है, बट जो भी इंजरी उसका बाकी बॉडी पार्ट पे होता है वो उसको लीक करके ठीक कर लेता है.
पर नेक पे वो पहुंच नहीं पाता है, इसलिए
टंग नहीं पहुंच पाता, तो इट कांट लीक इट. So dog saliva is very good, मतलब in healing the.
Very interesting, very interesting, very interesting. I don't know if anybody has done work on dog saliva healing, but it will be very nice if, yes, dog believe. Yeah, it is dates back to ancient Egyptian times when dogs were used in healing practices. Egyptians believed that being licked by a dog on an open wound would aid in recovery. Mind you, this is a traditional knowledge of 2000 years.
And we used to listen in our village, sir, such things.
But you know, this is the difference between the Western science and our science. We know it, we'll repeat it, but we'll not find the science of it. And this is what in the Pennsylvania University science, they are doing this, they are working on this, and they're trying to work out the science, and they're saying dog saliva can possibly heal. Why does it heal? So the University of Amsterdam, Menno Oda found that there are protein called as histatinins in saliva. Histatins. These are well known for their ability to ward off infections. Some histatins also prompt. Let me show you this. But why don't we do this kind of work? Why don't we do this kind of work? This is my question. Why should we get it from the West? Why can't, if this knowledge was available in our society, why didn't we find out? Menno out of University of Amsterdam find the protein called as histatins in saliva. Another researcher at University of Florida at Gainesville found nerve growth factor in saliva of dog, NGF. Wound doused with NGF heal twice as fast as the one that are unlicked wounds. Can you imagine now? These are all scientifically fact. And then there are also some risk involved because it also contains a bacteria called as Pasturella, which can cause a skin infection called as cellulitis in human. So there are positive and negative side, and we need to balance them, and we need to figure out under what conditions will take place what. So this is a paper on, there's a course on science in our word, certainty and controversy. There's a course is Pennsylvania State University SC200 course, where they're trying to look at this knowledge. Can you imagine what we are doing in one session? They have a whole course on this problem of looking at this kind of beliefs and then questioning them to scientific basis. Why don't we do that? Why don't we do that? I mean, you can all teach a course of this kind to all of us. Some of you can become our teacher and put together learning value here. We are not going to take the break today because where did I go? Wait a minute. Did I lose the connection? No, I have got it here. Let me stop here. I had not removed it. Sorry. So I can put you the link here because we have only half an hour left. I don't want to take a break. Don't mind today without break. But this is something that we need to do more often as to why something. Now imagine I do not know about histatins. Let me put it very clearly. But my not knowing doesn't matter. But if you didn't know, those who are working on anti-infective agents, then it is something serious. My not knowing can be forgiven. This is not my primary subject. But if you who are working in the anti-infective agent don't know, then we have missed something important. And they have given in this paper very intelligently pros and the cons. They have worked out two proteins which are causing the healing effect, but they also found a bacteria in the saliva which could cause infections. So you have now make a trade-off and certain kind of conditions which will possibly get the benefit but not the harm. I do not know what can those conditions be, but some of you will figure out. Good, Piyush. This led to your remark about saliva, led to this question and then this finding. We need to pursue every link in our knowledge system with respectful scrutiny. I would not like to believe anything that people say. I don't want you to be believers. Scientists are not believers. Scientists are skeptics. Please understand. Scientists are skeptics, subject to the traditional knowledge to the most rigorous scrutiny. Without science, we will not accept anything. But if we can make science which is affordable, which is accessible to masses, and we can reinforce and tell them that, look, this is only about this factor. Don't try to say that all your beliefs are valid. This belief is valid, but others may not be. And I'm only mentioning what I have done and what I've reviewed. So we should be very precise in our communication. We should not spread so. We cannot believe, you know what is happening in our country today. A lot of people want to believe amazing relationships, which have so far not any scientific basis. Yes, Piyush, you were saying something before we proceed to the next person.
One more thing about the Egyptians. So I was reading about them and how earlier, how do they know how a woman is pregnant or not? They used to spray the urine of the woman on bajra. So if it bajra or gehu, so if it gets sprouts, if it transforms into a plant, then the woman is pregnant after 1 week or not. So they used to know whether it will be girl or boy using that using that tradition. I don't know if I should say it or not, and I could not find any scientific proof of that, but I am working on it. So
I would only say about my suggestion, Piyush, is, and I'll tell you something what we decided a long time ago. There are certain kinds of questions we should not ask. And gender determination is one such question. Even if there is a basis for that, I would request you, and even if you find it out, don't publish it. Don't share it. Because this can have disastrous consequences.
Yeah, I know, sir.
When we were doing our surveys, and we have been doing, and we came to know many practices of the most heinous crime in the world, which is of female infanticide. We have never put that knowledge in our database, and we will never put that knowledge in our database. We don't want to reveal and share that with anyone as to how elderly women do what they do to commit this kind of crime. But we are aware of that. So there is a responsibility as a scientist on us not to reveal everything that we learn, because the ability of people to use that knowledge with responsibility may not be there. And people may use this knowledge for an ulterior purpose, for inhuman purpose, for distorting gender issue. And just for your information, the regions which are most developed in our country have the most adverse gender issue. Do you know that?
Yes, sir.
Ludhiana, Kurukshetra, not Mahendra, the Kheda, Anand, the most prosperous region. Any state you take up, any state, there's an inverse correlation. Economic development high, gender issue adverse. Can you imagine? This is the pernicious effect of economic development. We don't want that. And there are many ways in which it is done. We don't want that. So my request is, leave that question aside. Even if you figure out the science of it, keep it to yourself for other scientific reasons, because there are cases of sex determination. We need that knowledge for, there are certain animals which change their sex during the growth phase. In alligators and some other animals, I'm told that there are certain properties by which they change their sex. So for scientific reasons, maybe there are some questions that we need to know, but we should not publish things which can be misused by wicked minds. And these wicked minds can be all around us. Huh?
Sir, actually, sir, you took the name of Mahendragarh?
Yes.
I'm from Mahendragarh, sir.
Because I can tell you, well, this is not enough time, but I can tell you, I learned so much from Mahendragarh district. I did my research there. I did my thesis there. My first encounter with the traditional knowledge took place Ramnavas Sharma of Jinjaria Vas village. I will never forget that, how much I learned from that farmer. That this district has the best ratio of, minimum malnutrition of children. There are 5 districts we found in the country. 5 states: Jammu Kashmir, Anantnag in Jammu Kashmir, Barpali in Odisha, Mahendragarh in Haryana, and Andaman. We found one region, and all these regions had a one common thing, that mothers breastfed their children for 2 to 3 years, sometimes 4 years.
Yes, sir.
One good reason why children are so strong. And it's not surprising that you will find the memorials for these soldiers. Maximum memorials for the soldiers are found in this district. I have not seen anywhere, which means every family has somebody in army. This family, this region, they are so valiant and so valor and so much of commitment to the nation that they will think it is part of their duty to send one person from the family to the defense. Anyway, I got digressed, but it's an amazing region, and you have inherited, you are born in a region which is full of virtues in many respects. We will talk about it some other time. Anybody else want to share? We have half an hour left, and there are so many good practices. I'm not going to the sheet because I know some of you know what you have mentioned. So somebody else will like to share a traditional knowledge which you think is worthy of attention and worthy of research. Anybody?
Sir,
yes,
I
go
just
ahead.
want to add one more thing. Same, the thorn removal.
Yes, please.
We heat the jaggery and put on a cloth and tie it to the place where thorn has entered. And in morning we get that thorn out. I don't know how this happens, but this is also practice used in our house.
So jaggery, warm jaggery.
Yes, sir. We take in a spoon, heat it,
yes,
and place on a cloth, tie that to the leg, and that comes out.
Thorn comes out.
Yes.
That's very interesting. I've never heard that before. What would be the scientific? That's very interesting. Well. This is very interesting. I mean, there is on Quora, there is a question, but I don't know why does it work? Why does it work? And nobody has replied to that. But it is useful. Why does it work? We have to ask that question. We don't know the answer to that question. But
I will try to search about this.
Please search. Please search. Sir. What does sugar do? Unrefined sugar. There must, jaggery has a lot of minerals, and it has a lot of minerals, very rich in minerals. So something is causing the thorn to be rejected by the body, and so just like an organ rejection takes place in our body because of the immunity actions, where our body rejects. So they give suppressant of immunity. They give drugs which suppress the immunity when the organ transplantation takes place, so that the organ is not rejected. Now think of thorn as a transplant, and the body must reject it. So when body has to reject it, the immunity has to be boosted. When immunity is boosted, it rejects the transplant. That could possibly be one physiological action. So when you search for literature, find out the effect of jaggery on immunity pathways.
Yes, sir. And one more thing, sir. My mother prepares some rava ka sweet, sir. Whenever I get sick, like fever, she gives this, and it reduces, not completely heals, but it reduces, sir.
Your mother is a very well equipped healer. So you should recognize the role of a mother as a healer. Write down all her practices.
Yes, sir.
Write a small paper of her practices. We will be very happy to give it a place of respect along with a photograph and name. What is her name, please?
Jyoti Lakshmi Joshi, sir.
Mrs. Jyoti Lakshmi Joshi. We are convey our respect to her, and we would like to have an article.
Sir.
Yes, and give us scientific basis wherever you find.
I'll
so that
search
this article,
about these things.
We will publish this in newsletter. Any one of you would like to send us a traditional knowledge with a scientific explanation, we will publish that in Honeybee newsletter, because we welcome such articles which connect formal and informal system. So we can bring out a special issue of Honeybee newsletter based on the contributions from this batch of students. So But the only condition is that you must tell us the scientific basis.
I will search for this.
Even if you have not established it, at least speculate on it with some references, so that the speculation is well thought out. It is not just random speculation. There is a basis of that. That will be very, very useful. Before we proceed, let me tell you one example, if I have not told you before. So there was a conference, and Nandini, I'll just come to you in a minute. There was a conference in Kerala, Dr. S.K. Sinha, who was the president of Indian Society of Biochemistry and Plant Physiology, had organized that. He was a very dear friend. He was also director of IRI long time ago, and he was director of the Water Technology Center at IRI, Pusa, Indian Agricultural Research Institute. So he said there's a meeting conference taking place on drought. Now, why don't you come, and you have done a lot of work on the way people cope with the risk. So you tell us what happens after the drought, and we will tell you what happens before the drought in terms of physiological process. So I said, that's interesting. So I went there, talked about it. Then I said, I want to share one phenomena that I've been intrigued, and I will never find so many biochemists and physiologists together. So let me tell you that. And I mentioned this problem, that when I was a child and I had pain in my ear, my landlady in 1958 or 59 put her breast milk in my ear. When there is a foot and mouth disease in the cattle, people pour milk on the hoofs of the cattle in Gujarat. When the people transplant tobacco seedling in Andhra Pradesh, they put a pot of milk and put their hands in the pot of milk every now and then, so that tobacco mosaic virus gets inactivated. So I said, these are the three observations. Tell me what is common in these three. So one student, he was at that time a doctoral student at CCMB. He came to me at tea time and said, Professor, both these viruses that you mentioned, TMV and foot and mouth disease, are type 2 RNA viruses. Now, either there is an RNase enzyme in the milk which might be inactivating it, or after the protein coat is cut, or there may be some other action by which there's some compound, maybe protein or something, which binds casein or something. And mind you, there's a lot of research which has been later on done and which shows that there is a possibility of this kind of action. And in Canada, in Ontario, Department of Agriculture has put on its website use of milk for controlling viral diseases. And this is the only department in the world which has recommended it as a part of official advice that if we are working with viral affected plant, wash your tools in the nursery or garden or farm with milk and your hands, and it is as effective or more effective than anything else that they know in the science. So there is a availability of that knowledge. But we and Dr. Chari had done a review, and we published that review of milk as a viral control. Few studies were done subsequently, but not many. And I'm intrigued by this, that we have got such powerful hypotheses coming in this science. Why don't we pursue these and find out what are the reasons that it works? And if it works, could it not be useful for you when you are doing in BSL-4 lab? You want to have some effective ways of disinfecting your hands when you're working in that kind of lab, or some other such issue. You want to disinfect your tools and whatever have you. If it is effective, why not? So Nandini, please go ahead. I'll show you that.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Good evening, sir.
Yeah.
I'm Nandini from INST Mohali. Sir, I would like to add to that jaggery thing one more point. So my grandmother used to use mango pickles masala to put that thorn out of her skin.
Mango pickles
masala. Overnight.
Okay. Mango pickle masala. Okay.
Yes, sir. She used to wrap it around that wound area or the where the thorn was stuck. And in the morning, when we used to remove it, it was automatically removed from our skin.
The thorn.
Yeah.
I see. That's interesting. That's very interesting.
So she used specifically mangoes pickles masala only.
Now, mango pickle, of course, will have asparagus. It will have some salts. It will have some spices, of course, and mustard oil generally.
Yes, sir.
Mustard oil will extract some of these spices, some compound from the spices in the oil, and that's what masala should be. And obviously but this is where we need to do some research after all, to find out what are those compounds which are causing this to happen. whether it is chili or whether it is a mango pickle masala. But these are the questions which we should investigate and not leave it at the anecdotal level. The problem in Nandini is that we have not done justice to our knowledge system. This is what I wanted to bring out today. And I think we are all, I don't know whether convinced or not, but if somebody is not convinced, I would like to hear that voice. Somebody who believes that it is all bunkum, there's no point in giving attention to traditional knowledge. Nothing can be obtained from that. If there is anybody in the class who believes strongly in that, please argue your case. Anybody who doesn't believe, Piyush, I'll come to you in a minute, but anybody who wants to dismiss this
I
argument.
want to say one thing on this. Not only on this, and there are many belief that it heals. In psychological terms, there is a term called placebo effect, where it is proved
Just a minute. Virendra, I agree that placebo can have sometimes as much as 20 to 30% effect. Well, scientifically established that if you believe something works, but then we are not talking about placebo effect. We are talking about scientific basis of these beliefs. We want, and whatever cases we have taken so far, in each case we are trying to figure out this scientific basis. So when I talk about milk, I'm showing you that milk as a management tool for virus disease. And where from I'm talking about Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs of Ontario, Canada. I'm not talking about anecdote. I'm not talking about placebo. So you have an argument for placebo when you don't have a scientific basis. Then placebo can be there. But if there's a scientific basis, and the scientific basis can be scientifically refuted, that means you can prove it wrong, then which is not placebo. But in some cases, you are right that beliefs could be placebo, and we are obviously not interested in those. So that, but this, as I'm showing this, I'm looking at hard science, science which is experimental in nature, empirical science, science which can be validated.
The masala, what she's talking, I know that mustard oil has a allyl isothiocyanate, and it has many such properties. And this allyl isothiocyanate has proven such properties which can solve this. However, I do not agree that the whole masala. I say, even if
Virendra, the question is not my belief versus your belief. Question should be, if there is one factor which is causing, which gives you some direction, what we need to ask ourselves is that, is there a possibility that the oil is extracting certain compounds from other spices that have been added, which are contributing? After chili has already been found to be one reason, right? Now, if chili could be found, jaggery we discussed. Now we are looking at this concoction that has been there, where some spices extract would be there. We know that oil is a method.
Well, there are mustard oil has a scientifically proven such properties.
So that's what I'm saying, that maybe this property is enhanced by certain amendments, certain exudates from these spices. Maybe, maybe not. This is a empirical question, and we can first, once we find out the pathway through which the thorn comes out, that means the body rejects it, that pathway will become the target, and we will see which compounds work on that target. And then we will see whether those compounds are present in a higher quantity than in the extract rather than in the pure mustard oil. If we found that those compounds are in higher quantity in the masala of the pickle, then there is a scientific basis. But if we find that the pure mustard oil would have done the same thing instead of masala, then it is just a chance that they use masala instead of oil. And we can say that you can use the recommendation will be, you can even use oil that will have the same effect. That's fine. That's fine.
Just
That's
to
what
recall,
we need. That's the kind of science we need.
In Ramayana, it is mentioned that when King Dashrath died, and they all were waiting for Bharat to come, and waiting period was too high, then they used oil to preserve the body.
No, this is okay. This is well known even in the case of mummifying and all that. My only question, Bridendra, is that we don't subject such beliefs which are having functional property. Mind you, I'm not talking about beliefs which have not been tested by some of you. You are talking about things that you have tested. Your mother has done it, your father has done it, some family member has done it. If you have an empirical experience, I would say subject it to critical scrutiny. That's all I'm saying. Yes, Anil Bhushan. And then
Sir, I'm not going to other areas. I'm talking about only medicinal chemistry. If we consider the publication of Journal of Natural Products 2020, it says the only 20 to 30% drugs are synthetic. Otherwise, we have been benefited by traditional knowledge only. Some way or other, they give us the pharmacophore, we modify it and use for treating various diseases. If you could find the journal, that Journal of Natural Products 2020, that is drug discovery review on this. So I think traditional knowledge is the best way to work on.
You know, the first natural compound in Dr. Chopra in Jammu,
Yes,
1901, 1901, if I remember right, or maybe a little later, was extracted in our country. So what you are saying, serpentine, was it not serpentine? So what's the name? Not serpentine.
Reserve pine was in 1954. Serpentine was also, but it don't remember the year.
Reserve pine from this Sadabahar. What is that plant called? Rosia vinca. Winkelstein, I think. Rosia vinca. So I think he had worked on Rosia
You were
vinca.
talking about Rolfia serpentina.
I'm talking about Rolfia serpentina, maybe one of the two. But I'm talking, Dr. Chopra was one of the first to make a natural product-based drug. I mean, first such compound which was isolated and shown effect. So, yes, Devyani, please go ahead. Devyani, yes. Devyani, go ahead, please. Devyani, I'm not able to hear you. Can you please unmute and speak? And then we'll come to Saida. Devyani, are you able to speak? Saida, will you please start? Devyani, can you type on chat? Devyani, can you type on the chat so that we can read what you want to say? We're not able to hear you, Devyani. Can you try to unmute and speak again?
Good evening, sir.
Saida, go ahead. Yes.
Okay. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Sir, in my place, sir, there is a practice. Like, sir, if there is a marriage ceremony, sir, the beautiful ladies, especially the bride or the single ladies or any lady who dress well and go out like after dark, sir, they are requested to or asked to carry cloves, sir, with them, either in their cloth or in their body, sir, to ward off evil eyes, sir.
Now, clove is, again, I would argue that some of these are beliefs which it's very difficult to establish, but the clove is a well-known antibiotic. I mean, it keeps infections away. We know that. So clove has very many scientific uses, but whether it can keep the infections away, maybe yes, but I would like to look at it more critically. What kind of infections it can keep away? Evil eye is a very broad term.
I feel that is because in marriages and functions you tend to eat more. Indigestion is very rampant, and cloves are a very good relaxant. Like they are very good for treating acidity. You can see in the scientific papers. So that might be one of the ways jahan pe you have it handy, you take it.
Devyani has mentioned that people apply ghee on the burns. You are right, very right. I've also seen that done. Now, the fat application has been well known for various kinds of treatments. Why? Some of you have to figure out. Ayushman, Praveen, Piyush. Ayushman, please.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Sir, I'm Ayushman Goa from CSR.
Yes.
Sir, regarding traditional knowledge, I want to share that the restrictions of the breeding, restrictions of fishing during the breeding season can be a traditional knowledge approach, and if the scientific basis on it will be like if we do the restrictions so that in the next season we can get a more amount of fish. For example, sir, in my state in West Bengal, we see that this season the hilsa fish is not much available. due to this, no, there is not much restrictions. But in Bangladesh, like in the neighboring country, we found a lots of hilsa fish because they were maintaining that restrictions during the breeding season. Because that we know that in the time of January to April, the hilsa fish comes from sea to river for the breeding time period. At that time, if we restrict that, the catching of fish at that time, so we can, that would be helpful for our country too.
Yes, I read that in you have written that in this spreadsheet also. And
Right,
Ayushman,
sir.
this is a very good point you are saying. You have brought a very good dimension which we had ignored so far. Traditional knowledge, not only technological, but also institutional. There is a taboo on catching fish during a spawning period. This is a spawning period, correct? They go
Right,
up,
sir, right.
they go upstream, and then they go to shallow waters. In the shallow waters like estuaries, they lay their eggs because the water is not very fast moving there. So eggs will remain there, they will hatch into seedlings, and then fish fingerling, and then they will come into the river after some time or the ocean. So if you catch them when they're easy to catch, when they're spawning, they're dull, they move slowly. You can kill them with a pole also, with a stick. Then you are doing something against the ethics, which is, and the institution of, this is the ethical capital issue, that nobody will punish you, but you should feel bad about itself because society has put a taboo on that. Nobody should catch fish during spawning period. So what you're saying is there are institutions of this kind which have helped us to conserve the reproduction of nature. And
Exactly, sir.
when we reduce our reliance on such institutions, similarly, for example, how did we maintain the breeds of cattle? By castrating the bull after 2 or 3 years so that it does not cross with a daughter, you know? So that is how the bull was castrated. So the inbreeding does not take place. If inbreeding does place, the breed quality will go down. So we have maintained outstanding breeds of animals for such a long time by having very scientific method of avoiding inbreeding. So there are institutions which manage crossing programs. There are institutions which manage how the bull will be brought from which part and which animal, which calf will be made into bull. So this is a very good point that you mentioned, that we should not focus only on the technological practices. We should also look at the institutional practices. Yes, Praveen, and then Piyush, and then Manjit.
Sir, one thing there.
Yeah.
Hello.
Go
Sir,
ahead.
actually, in our societal project, we wrote to you regarding the MSW, the Municipal Solid Waste. Like you two suggested us to work with MSW tools and techniques. Like how can we work with those MSW tools and techniques? And regarding that, sir, I found paper that in India, in Chennai, sir, there is an NGO called ExxonMobil. They are working on the rat pickers. Sir, actually, we are 4 people from for transportation and geotechnical engineering background. So regarding this, now, actually, which dimension we should look for? That's all the confusion. So MSW collection. So if you please suggest on that.
We have to talk separately. We will come back to that. Let us fix. We will fix a time and we'll come back later. Praveen.
Okay.
Yeah, good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening. आवाज थोड़ी धीमी है भाई. Please come closer to the mic. I'm a little hard of hearing. Praveen, louder. हाँ. Go ahead. Go ahead, Praveen. Yes.
Good evening, sir.
Well, it's all right. It's slow, but I'll manage. Go ahead, please.
Sir, myself Praveen from CSIR, CSIO, Chandigarh.
Yes.
I belongs from Uttarakhand, from Gadwal region.
Okay.
There was a disease when I was childhood. Childhood, there was disease in our local language, makda disease. As I search in Google, it is known as dermatitis. I belongs from engineering background. I do not know about so much about biology or other biological part. When I was in childhood, my mother did she pick leaves from hilly areas and put in water for the whole night and put that leaves after grinding in that makda over that. She usually told the time that in our region when spider do the pee on the skin, this disease will arises. And how she cured, as I asked, usually ask her, मम्मी ये कौन सी leaves होती हैं, कैसे इसका पता करते हैं? She did कि there was some superstitious reason behind that. From the lady, she learned to know about the leaves. She told her कि हर किसी को नहीं बताया जाता, ये अगर किसी स्पेसिफिक जिसका दिल साफ होता है, if वो ही इसको कर सकता है, otherwise it will not work. So it was a very good leaves when as I remember, yeah, many people get rid from her, but
Try to get the sample of that leaf. We will get it identified.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's why I am want to speak in this platform, and thanks to so much, sir, to think about that leaves. I totally forget about that. As I
Good.
get the
I'm
mail
so happy that because of the blessings of the professional blessing you will get when you will revive or actually rejuvenate this knowledge. And with your effort, if we can get to know that plant and we can figure out its anti-allergic property, because the spider's saliva or spider's excudate does cause allergy, does cause irritation on the skin. Yes, Piyush? कौन बोल रहा है?
So, मतलब we can have an idea apart from
वैसा चेक कर लो कौन बोल रहा है, उसको म्यूट कर दो. Yes, go ahead, Piyush.
so apart from this societal project, the ideas and we are getting in this chat and discussion, so we can make a repository out of that.
You can make a
repository.
Yes, indeed. Sandhya and many others are putting on the chat. I keep on saving the chat because I'm going to extract. I'll ask Megha to take all of this chat. Please keep saving the chat, and we should get all of these points which are coming in the chat together. And we would definitely like a special issue of Honeybee newsletter, or based on your articles, short articles, maybe one paragraph, maybe two paragraphs, maybe one page, on specific practices with name and address of the parents or the mother or father, whosoever has conveyed there. I would like their photographs to come also with the article, so that it becomes like a gratitude. Scholars of our country will pay gratitude to the elders for the knowledge for which they found scientific basis. We will only publish those for which we find scientific basis. May not be complete scientific basis, but at least sufficient one to promote experimental validation of that. And some of you will do the validation. So, Piyush, this is a good idea, completely valid idea, and we should take it forward. And you should propagate this among other students in your lab. Ask them all to contribute to this. We have a database, grid.undp.org.in, and we have other databases at honeybee.org. We will add these all in that database, but there will be a sub-database that we can prepare from this course. Dr. Anamika is with me. She has created that database. She can share that on the year. And many of you are now oozing out when the time of the class is coming to an end. I am finding a lot of expression, and I'm so happy with this feeling. This is what I wanted. This is what we want, actually, that the knowledge of our elders, knowledge of our community deserves a chance, fair chance, a critical chance. We will not believe in just because it is being said. Yes, Manjit? Manjit, please.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Sir, one of my uncle has some kind of gastric problem like Vat Rog, if you know. And he visited many modern science doctors, and no one gave him a cure for that disease. But one day he found that some of leg points are giving relief in that stomach disease, sir.
You mean acupressure?
Some sort of acupressure. It is maybe some blood vessel points that they are causing effect on gastric issue.
Well, you are right. I mean, I feel that. I have not figured out, but I feel that there are certain points at which I press, because I have this muscular pain problem in legs, and or the gastric problem gets released. You are right. You are very right. There could be points. I mean, this is a very developed science in China. Acupressure is very well developed there. In our country, it has not received sufficient attention. But if you know that, particularly for women, when naval balance is disturbed, नाभि गिर जाती बोलते हैं औरतों में, तो उसमें वो अंगूठी के ऊपर बांधते हैं कुछ क्रेन को, and to restore it in its place. So These are obviously there are nerve points which, when pressed hard, may bring certain kind of corrections in our body which otherwise get out of balance. So this is a point which we need to really pursue. There is some basis of it. I do not know much about it, but this is something that we need to investigate.
But what he says that modern science does not consider it as a disease.
मंजीत, बड़ा सिंपल सा क्वेश्चन है यार. अगर हम फिजियोलॉजिस्ट के साथ मिलकर काम करेंगे, डॉक्टर के साथ मिलकर काम करेंगे, we will take 15 patients and or 15 patients and 15 control and 15 treatment, and 15 people will get this pressure point, 15 will not get, and we will collect data on the fact it has. Very simple. ये तो कोई इसमें एथिकल कमिटी से क्लियरेंस, एथिकल कमिटी से क्लियरेंस लेके ट्रायल करेंगे ना इसको, तो क्या दिक्कत है?
No, what I'm saying that if we take some test, then we found nothing in the body regarding this issue.
Test nahi. I'm saying we have to see the nervous system, how pressure at one point triggers relief at other point. This is what we are saying, and this can be done experimentally, proved or wrong, right or wrong, isn't it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
इसको तो एक्सपेरिमेंटली वैलिडेट करना चाहिए ना. हम इसको यूं क्यों कहें कि हम मान लेंगे? हम मानेंगे नहीं, हम साइंटिफिकली प्रूव करेंगे इसको. नवीन शर्मा. नवीन.
Hello, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Yeah, this is Naveen here from CSIO Chandigarh.
Yes.
Sir, I just want to share one thing in our area in Uttarakhand, in rural areas, to treat a jaundice in a newborn child. What they use is they will use a hot tongs. It is called chimta in Hindi language. And they will just touch to the stomach of that newborn child, and frequently, like 100 times or so, they will for 3-4 rounds, and the jaundice got cured. I was surprised. I was wondering how this is happening. But
this is called branding. This is called branding. There are in animals also it is done. I would only say that this is something that should be very carefully, very well trained person, and we should find out the scientific basis, whether the excitement of this, the blood will move towards those points where you touch, and does that blood circulation help in correcting this problem? I don't know, because normally children are exposed to light and the newborns. I have no idea about this. We'll have to study it, but this is an observation that needs to be subjected to very critical scrutiny. We need to figure it out.
Yes, sir, but it's not like 1 or 2 people. There are lots of people who believe in it, and they are getting cured.
No, Naveen, whenever we have, I agree with you. My point is, why this knowledge system had not received sufficient curiosity-driven experiments is because we have not done what just now I showed you a paper from Pennsylvania State University where they looked at chili and its effect on wound healing, isn't it? They found dog bite, effect of chili on dog bite. They did a study and found what dog bite dog bite, dog saliva effect on wound healing. And they were trying to find those two proteins that they found in saliva of dog, which by licking could help in wound healing. Now, this is something that dog lovers may have known for some time, but some others may not have known. And they did experiment, they did analysis of the saliva. We just leave it at the anecdotal level. I mean, that is my problem. We are not subjecting the knowledge to critical scrutiny. And I can tell you one thing, that any belief, unless subjected to very critical scrutiny, will not get into scientific knowledge. And I'm happy that skepticism is there. So I don't mind people not believing when this is claimed. I will mind if we don't provide scientific evidence. Then for after 10 years, if we meet Naveen, we will still have the same situation where there'll be beliefs and they will not be tested. Here is the chance that we have. That if each one of you take up 1 or 2 scientific experiments, only 2 and not too many, 1 or 2 in your domain of your broad domain, and establish the validity or invalidity as the case may be, then we will move forward. We'll take 1 or 2 more last and then close. Praveen?
Yes, thank you.
Praveen Lakera, go ahead.
Sir, actually, I told you. I think I did not remove the hand.
Oh, you didn't remove. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry for
Now, before we close for the day, anybody has a very strong urge? I'm being reading on.
Good evening, sir.
Yes, go ahead, Shivangi.
Sir, I am Shivangi from CSIR MTech Chandigarh. Sir, when I was in second class, I was suffering from stomach pain from for 6 to 7 months. I had consumed lots of medicine, but I was not fine. Then a old person gave me a soft solution and told me and give me yellow soil for applying on the stomach. And after a month, I was fine. I was fine.
So it's on the external application of this soap
Yes,
solution, you
sir.
said?
Soil, yellow soil for, he told me for applying yellow soil on the stomach area.
You know,
And
Gandhiji,
soft solution.
if you read Gandhiji's biography, My Experiment with Truth, you will find that Gandhiji also used to do treatment with clay paste on stomach and back. तो गांधी जी मिट्टी का उपचार करते थे और ये बहुत पुराना है, लेकिन दिक्कत यही है कि इसके अंदर हमने साइंटिफिकली नहीं देखा कि क्या एब्जॉर्ब होंगे, विल दैट टेक आउट सम टॉक्सिन्स फ्रॉम आवर बॉडी एंड देयर बाय रिलीव अस ऑफ द पेन, क्या कारण है वो हमें स्टडी करना चाहिए. बट दिस इज अ वेरी वेल एस्टेब्लिश्ड स्ट्रीम ऑफ ट्रीटमेंट, क्ले ट्रीटमेंट. इसका एक आयुर्वेद में काफी डिस्क्रिप्शन है बच्चे, इसके बारे में थोड़ा सा हमें समझना चाहिए, पढ़ना चाहिए. ये एक बहुत ही इंपॉर्टेंट बात हमने कही. अब सोप सॉल्यूशन वाली बात मैंने नहीं सुनी है पहले, लेकिन मिट्टी की क्ले की बात मैंने पढ़ी भी है, सुनी भी है. इसको हमें और स्टडी करना चाहिए. और तुमने, क्योंकि तुमको फायदा हुआ है, तुम्हारी थोड़ी ड्यूटी बनती है इस नॉलेज के लिए. डू यू रिमेंबर द नेम ऑफ द एल्डरली पर्सन हु टोल्ड दिस?
Sir, I don't know. I don't remember the name.
अपने मम्मा से पूछना, तुमको कैसे याद होगा, तुम तो 2-3 साल की थी, तुमको थोड़ी याद
सर
होगा.
वो मम्मी जिस स्कूल में पढ़ाती थी, उसकी जो प्रिंसिपल थे, उनके वो ससुर जी थे और वो यही वैद्य थे. मतलब
क्या बात है, देखा ना क्या नॉलेज नेटवर्क बना है यहाँ पर. कहाँ से नॉलेज कैसे आई है शिवांगी? कम से कम ट्राई टू फाइंड आउट हिज नेम इफ पॉसिबल. वी विल पे ट्रिब्यूट इफ वी कैन एस्टेब्लिश दिस साइंटिफिकली. मेरा मतलब ये है कि जहां पर हो सके, जहां संभव है, थोड़े एफर्ट से हमें उन लोगों का आभार प्रकट करना चाहिए. वी शुड एक्सप्रेस आवर ग्रेटिट्यूड टू दोज हु गिव अस ए पाथ ऑफ साइंटिफिक वैलिडेशन ऑफ सर्टेन थिंग दैट हैव वर्क फॉर अस. कम से कम इतना तो हम करें ना उनके लिए. उनके लिए नहीं, अपने प्रोफेशन के लिए, अपने सोसाइटी के लिए.
सर उन्होंने कोई पैसे भी नहीं लिए थे उस चीज के लिए.
दैट इज द जेनरोसिटी ऑफ दीज पीपल. हमारा समाज बहुत दयालु है. आवर सोसाइटी इज वेरी काइंड. Only thing is we are unkind people. We are ungrateful people. Pardon me for saying this, Shivangi. Don't mind my saying, but we are ungrateful. We don't do justice to the kindness of the people. What is the scientific justice? Scientific justice is we will subject to that practice to scientific scrutiny and find the science underlying it. That is the true tribute, because that will help us to continue this practice for next 1,000 years, because we will tell it in a scientific language. People will believe it. Otherwise, they will not believe it. Yes, Priyanka and Divya and Gayatri.
Hello.
I'm happy that you are willing to extend some time for the session. Please go ahead, Priyanka.
Sir, I'm from CSIR. सर मेरे जीजू को किडनी में उन्होंने ट्रीटमेंट कराया, बट वो स्टोन उनका लीव है, पत्थर चटा करके लीव है. आप उसको सुबह लीजिए, हर रोज लीजिए खाली पेट, और वो आपको हेल्प करेगी स्टोन को
डिसॉल्व करने में.
से सोनोग्राफी करवाई तो उनकी स्टोन डिसॉल्व होगी, और मेरे ख्याल से उसमें मैलिक एसिड.
हाँ, this was the one we started in the beginning of the class today. Yes, you are right, Priyanka. This is very effective. लेकिन सवाल ये उठता है कि उसका जो मेडिसिन है ना, बाजार में मिलता भी. पत्थर चटा ऑयल हमने चेक किया, अमेज़न पे बिक रहा है, फ्लिपकार्ट पे बिक रहा है. इसका एक्सट्रैक्ट, not oil, syrup. Now the question is, can we make a better tablet? इसका प्रोडक्ट बना लें, इसकी अच्छी साइंस कर ले. एम्प्री में तो आप लोग मटेरियल्स पे काम करते हो, बट maybe this deserves attention. Priyanka, thank you for bringing this out, but this is very important. My wife had taken it many times when she had a problem of this kind. This is very effective. Divya.
Good evening, sir. Good evening, sir. This is Divya from CSIU Chandigarh.
चंडीगढ़ के बच्चे बहुत बता रहे हैं आज, मुझे बड़ा अच्छा लग रहा है. The maximum statements I have heard is from CSIU Chandigarh. I will have to write to the director. कुछ तो अच्छा हो रहा है वहाँ पर. बोलो दिव्या.
Sir, one practice I want to discuss is I have observed many times. I have observed that during an epileptic attack, people generally use the application of shoe smell. So the scientific basis behind this is that this smell it generates the activity in the same region of the brain where the epileptic attack is generated. So by giving this aromatherapy, the epileptic seizure is stopped.
This is very interesting. So there is a paper published in National Institute of Health Journal, National Library of Medicine.
Yes, sir.
And
Yes,
you
sir.
know what you are saying. I'm so happy that you brought out this at the fag end. But just look at this paper. This paper is scientific basis behind traditional practice of application of shoe smell in controlling epileptic seizures in the eastern countries. Harinder Jaseja, published in 2008. All right.
Yes,
and
sir,
I'm talking about PubMed. And they are showing that shoe smell has an olfactory stimulation from the shoe smell reveals a sound and scientific reasons for remedial efficacy in epilepsy. They possess anti-epileptic influence, which could have been the basis for this application in earlier time and for persistence even today. This paper is worth reading about. So nice that you brought it. But question is, I don't know Harinder Jaseja, which lab he is working at, but it will be nice to see that the person got a published paper in Clinical Neurology Neurosurgery Journal. Can you imagine a good paper in a good journal now included in PubMed? Why wouldn't we do that? Why wouldn't we do that? So I will just put it here for all of you. But look at this. Some people subject it. Otherwise, it will remain a belief. It will remain a belief. Yes, Gayatri or Divya, who was speaking just now? Divya was speaking?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So Gayatri?
Yes, sir. Sir, actually, for tuberculosis treatment, we were, my master's work was in the natural products based research. In that, I have been screening many plant extract. So with that, what was very evident is that the bale fruit powder is very effective in the treatment of tuberculosis, as well the Glyceria glabra, the licorice, which is very commonly and
Muleti.
yes, Muleti. That one is also very effective. And one more overlapping thing is that this Glyceria glabra, this Muleti, is very effective in the COVID treatment as well. That is
because the lung is affected by the COVID, and licorice has been known to be a cough remedy for ages. Actually, very interesting. Very interesting. Then did you do some work on licorice and COVID?
Yes, sir. Actually, one paper was published based on the pharmacophore modeling. It has it actually works targets the 3-CLP protease pathway in the COVID treatment. So this Glyceria glabra can be, the decoction of it can be consumed regularly along with the curcumin to treat the COVID home remedy for that.
Yes,
and
yes.
Another one is that I would like to add is my grandmother used to give used to burn the turmeric wood, that root of it. She used to burn it, and she used to make us to smell it when we have nose congestion kind of thing. Yeah, so that is
the smell of the turmeric tuber, burnt turmeric tuber.
Yes, burnt turmeric, that tuber, yes, tuber. It is very effective in relieving the nose congestion.
For what?
Cold, nose congestion, asthma. We have blocked nose. That is very relevant. And I with my own interest, I went into the literature survey. It is where it actually there are many literatures to for this treatment. It is a Ayurvedically proven treatment.
Very nice, very nice. And these are very low cost solutions for which we spend sometimes huge amount of money and not get treatment, because asthma and other these are psychosomatic problems, and we don't have good treatment for that. For all life, people suffer, but this seems very practical and I've not heard of it before, but this is very interesting. Abhijit?
Yes, sir. Sir, just few. One of him told that about the clay therapy, the clay used to for healing something. Sir, I have experienced some of these that in my childhood, my grandmother used to use clay and turmeric paste. They boiled it, and after cooling, warm paste is applied on that ankle twisting or spasm in any muscle for to reduce the swelling and the pain. But I till date I don't know about the what is the importance of this. But currently I found that it has been widely used as a mud therapy in Ayurveda.
Correct. And this is something that we need to, even Ayurveda doesn't have, has not received the attention that it should, but it is good that you are getting interested in this. I'm very happy that, yes. Next one, Ayushi. I'll come to Praveen later. Ayushi?
Yes, sir. Good evening, sir. I'm Ayushi from CSIR Empri, sir, Bhopal. Sir, I will take a very common example, and I have used this thing many times, not for me, even for other housemates also. So that is that kachi pakki roti we call, half cooked roti, like half cooked bread. So it is used to treat the swellings and then twisting of the legs, the like previous person told. So we use that kachi pakki roti, little warm with some turmeric.
Okay.
So with some turmeric and some mustard oil also, and we used to apply it on the place, the affected place, and it has it's like miracle. I have encountered this, so I can say this. This like it's
I'm going to try.
miracle because one time I encountered it at night. Okay, I don't have some medication or something, and I was alone at home. So what I did, I have some leftover that dough with me, so I just cooked it and used it. Like salt is available at everyone's home, and like mustard oil, and it healed very rapidly, sir. Next day I was able to go to office because of that one only.
Very interesting. Turmeric makes sense, but turmeric with the how kachi pakki roti, which essentially means that there is something in the unbaked or less baked bread dough, which is
actually, sir, it retains many vitamins in it, and they are very rich in the amino acids. All these things combinedly work for the betterment.
कहाँ पर हो? Where are you based? Empri? No.
Yes, sir. I'm studying in CSIR Empri. I'm pursuing my PhD, and I'm basically from Gwalior, sir, Madhya Pradesh.
Okay, because the point is that when we talk about new materials, I don't know whether we are only restricting materials for engineering application or also for medical application. But if Empri is interested in research on materials for even health application, then there is a case for studying this even more and find out what exactly happens. So we need to really analyze and find out how.
Yes, sir. Of course, we should do so.
Yes, Siddharth.
Yes, sir. I'm also from CSIR, CSIO, Chandigarh. And as someone was sharing for decongestion or nasal decongestion, I would also like to share, like in my childhood, I used to suffer from asthma, and many a times I was suffering from runny nose and congestion of nose. So at that time, my mother used to give a small sack of cumin, black cumin seed or kalonji seed, and he used to tell me that you just rub the sack and smell or sniff the aroma out of it, and it used to decongest my nose, and also the runny nose also used to get rid of it in overnight.
In Kerala, they take water of Karanji, isn't it? All the time. Some of you might be from Kerala know that this is used very often, and it has been, it is proven effect for respiratory conditions, but right. we have not done much research on it. Unfortunately, that is the whole problem. But you are very right. You are very right that it has been used for headache, toothache, nasal congestion, and there is a paper which shows that how does it work. So
we use many allopathic nasal drops, but there is no such product out of it, herbal product around Kalonji for this type of use.
No, I agree with you that we should really look at these kind of solutions more seriously. We have Nandini, Snelata, and Julan, and I'll come. So that was speaking just now, no? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Nandini or Snelata, one of you, and then Julan.
Hello. Yes, sir.
Yes, Nandini. Go ahead, Nandini.
Sir, I would like to add one more point to that congestion thing the previous person told. My husband is also suffering from asthma, and he used to have a very bad congestion. So one of my relatives told me to use a pinch of black pepper powder in milk while during at night to consume that milk. So after 2 or 3 days, my husband was really very relieved from congestion, and it really worked. So I think this might be having some addition to it.
So piperine is one of the compound, but there may be more compound which are released in the milk. And you say that he was not getting relief by any medicine otherwise.
Yes, sir.
So what are you going to do now?
So
will you write a review? Will you write a short review as a mark of
sure, sir,
gratitude to those who told you this practice? किसने बताया?
Sir, one of my relatives.
तो उनका नाम तो मालूम होगा ना?
Yes, sir.
So as a mark of tribute to that relative, please write at least 1-page review or 2-page review on this subject. ठीक है ना?
Sure, sir.
And send it to us, and we'll consider publishing it, because this is the kind of respect we want for knowledge systems. Snelata.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, Snelata. Go ahead, Snelata, please go ahead. Snelata, we can't hear.
So I would like, yes, sir.
Now go ahead.
Yeah. So most about traditional knowledge beneficial for human.
So
I would like to. So I would like to share my. Actually, sir, there is some network problem in my institute. So can I text?
Text कर दो, type कर दो, type.
Okay. So okay, sir. Okay.
Yeah. Digvijay.
Hello.
Yes.
Good evening, sir. Sir, in your previous classes, you mentioned that there is no sensor or there is no machine which tells about hydration state of our body.
I mean, there are technologies, costly technology. There is not variable.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So in connection to this traditional knowledge, there is if the urine color is transparent, then it suggests that that the body is properly hydrated. So on basis of urine color, we can come to know that whether body is hydrated or not. So
I see. So if urine is slightly yellowish,
yes, sir,
that means you have not taken enough water.
Exactly, sir. So it means you need water.
I see. But hydration, the urine will become yellow when you take multivitamin or B complex.
Sir, references are there. I searched references. So references are there. So
good. I didn't know that.
Yes, sir. So I think this will we don't need any means machine or sensor or low cost, because this is means nature has provided such a powerful tool. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So I humbly want to mention it. Yes,
no, it's good point.
Yes,
Julan.
Hello.
Go ahead. Julan.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good evening, sir.
Sir,
I'm Julan Kumar from CSIO Chandigarh. तो सर रूरल एरिया में जब बिच्छू डंक मारता है तो कोई nobody goes for medical treatment. तो वो क्या करते हैं कि वो पिकल उनको दिया जाता है खाने के लिए, जनरली मैंगोज का और लेमन का। और क्या करते हैं कि वो लोग कुछ मंत्र यूज करते हैं, और नहीं तो उसका बैक साइड जो है पित्तल या ये कॉपर का जो है थाली उसके पीठ में चिपका देते हैं, और वो इजली जो है वो जो विष होता है वो बाहर हो जाता है। एंड जब वो पिकल खाने को देते हैं, या फिर ये सॉल्ट वाटर जो होता है आई में देने बोलते हैं, and after that they are very sure कि patient will not go in damage situation if you use pickle.
Well, this is again very complex practice, and we will have to figure out how the salt water, brine water in the eyes, how does it detoxify? This is a possible route of detoxification. Salt water, brine water for eyes, I'm not sure, but this is something which needs investigation. It definitely needs investigation. Yes, 91831. I can't read your name. Preeti Khera.
Yes, good evening, sir. I'm Preeti from CSIO Chandigarh. So
yes.
My grandmother used to told me one very basic thing, which usually people are suffering nowadays in a very young age. That is from their joint pain. Most of the young generation now is suffering from the joint pain. So what our grandmother used to do, she took the arandi leaves and tie them across her joints, and she get relief from that immediately. Means within a duration of just 5 to 10 minutes. And she walks like a very natural, not having the joint pain again.
Yes, castor leaves help even in muscular pain. Yes, you're right. It's very interesting. We need to work on these solutions. I've also used this, but I must be, I'm as guilty as you may be that we have not investigated properly this treatment. We will have to now bring this session to close, but I'm saying two things are happening today. One, that most of you did not drop out. We have 186, we have 171. That's a great tribute. And we are half an hour beyond the time, which is second tribute, which essentially convinces me, if there was any doubt at all, then we have gotten evidence, empirical evidence, that there's a huge response, huge enthusiasm among the younger scholars of our country, from all parts of the country, who want to give fair chance to the traditional knowledge of our society. And it is this chance that we have not given yet. But I'm very optimistic. I'm very optimistic today. My enthusiasm, you have added many years to my life, because I believe that your generation will do justice and will bring due scientific scrutiny to this knowledge system. The tribute is not, we will not do justice by believing what people say. I'm again repeating. It is not a blind belief. We don't want faith-based healing. We want science-based healing. We don't want placebo. Placebo may work, that's all right. I have no quarrel with that, but that is not what we want to work towards. We are working towards scientific basis of traditional knowledge with rigorous science. And we saw many papers, some by Indians, some by other people around the world who are doing this task. We need to do this. I'm hoping that each one of you, so there are 170, 169 people now at this moment in the class. I hope we will get 169 pages at least. One page write-up on one page. If I'm not asking for more, just one page about any belief, any traditional knowledge of your family, of your elders, of your mother, and with her name and photograph and scientific explanation. If you can send, I can tell you, I will give it to Shekhar, and I'll give it to everybody in the world. I will tom about it. I'll tell how Indian scholars have turned a page, a new page in the destiny of our society, in democratizing knowledge and giving fair chance to the traditional knowledge system, and blending modern and traditional science, and something new will come out, something valid will come out. So thank you so much. God bless you all. And yes, Piyush, go ahead. You were saying something. Yes, go ahead.
Knowledge in case of home remedies or health issues only, or civil engineering?
Any area, material science, it could be material science, it could be vegetable dyes, it could be the Kerala technology of mirror, with the metal mirror, as some of you might have heard of. They make a mirror out of metal. There is no glass in it. And there's only one family which does it. There's only one family in Kerala which produces metallic mirror. And I happen to have one because they gifted me one. So I'm a very proud possessor of that mirror. So it could be in material science, it could be in physical science, it could be in biological science, it could be in chemical science, any discipline of science. Doesn't matter really. It could be in any discipline, not just health. Any discipline. Traditional knowledge exists for all kinds of things. You know how people cure wood, and there are wood houses in Uttarakhand which have not been eaten by termite for all these years. 100 years old houses. Some of you from Uttarakhand would know that, and older than that. How did they treat the wood without getting it termite? And today in our houses, even the cement balls get termite. So we are not able to. I've got 2 times treatment done for termite in my house, and still termites come. And there they are keeping wood material, which is preferred food of termite, and there's no termite there. So naturally, the knowledge of in architecture, in physical science, all disciplines, if you can all promise 1 page at least, maybe longer, more, 1 page about one practice of a dear one in your family, someone who you respect, your relative, your grandfather, your mother, your father, your sister, anybody. Or for that matter, the father-in-law of the principal where your mother worked. Can you imagine what was we talked about? हमारे जो स्कूल के प्रिंसिपल थे, मदर के स्कूल के प्रिंसिपल, उनके ससुर ने बताया था. Oh my God, what a long chain for bringing beauty in our life. I'm so grateful to all of you. This is a great reward as a teacher, but there's nothing more I, Anamika, can ask from you.
Sir, one last thing.
Yes, okay, go ahead.
Sir, there is a video trending of pinching the finger joint, and that is for dehydration. If you
What that again repeat?
There is a video, sir. If you pinch your finger joint,
okay.
Yeah, if it takes more time to release or relax state, then you are dehydrated. If it relaxes very easily, then you are hydrated.
I see. So if it stays in its place
for longer time, then you are dehydrated.
I'm thinking I'm dehydrated because I've not taken enough water, just 1 glass.
This was video, like trending videos.
Yes, no, it's interesting. It's interesting, and it works. I mean, I can see on your finger. I can see on my finger that the joint still remains there and it's not getting good. Thank you. Ananta, you want to say something? Then please go ahead quickly.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, today
so
you
I
were
was just talking to my mother right now, and she was also listening to your lecture. So we discussed, and she was telling me about 2 or 3 Kashmiri traditions. I'm a Kashmiri. So one is that we drink kahwa during cold or when we have congestion because it has some cinnamon and lot of things in it.
Yes.
The second was a herb which is found in Kashmir. It is called Vaigandar.
Vaigandar.
Waigander, Waigander. So it is. So we have a tradition in when we have a New Year. Kashmiri New Year is different. We call it Navre. So we have a thali. We keep essential things which we require for our next year, coming year. We keep all important things. So this was one herb which was also kept in that thali because they believe that this is very essential for our immunity and for our health. So this is one thing which I found.
You mean it is consumed? It is consumed, or it is?
Yes, it is like ginger. It is like ginger.
Okay, and you said Vaigandar? Vaigandar?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll write to my friends in Kashmir today itself and try to
Actually,
get.
I don't have much knowledge about it, but I was thinking about talking to some of my relatives who have this knowledge, my Nanu and also. Maybe I'll get more information regarding the same.
Not maybe, you are going to get. You have to get. Not maybe. Don't put maybe. So Harika, Tanya, Ayushi, Anil, Piyush, all of you whose videos are on, but also others whose videos are not on. Great day to you all. I'm so thrilled by the enthusiasm that you have shown. This country has a bright future now because we will democratize this knowledge with scientific. Namaskar, namaskar. माता जी आपका बहुत बहुत सम्मान और आगे से कभी कभी बुला लिया करो अपने पेरेंट्स को भी क्लास में मुझे कोई दिक्कत नहीं है हाँ प्रवीण तुम्हें कुछ कहना है जरूरी अभी
सर थोड़ा सा एक आइडिया था सर
बोलो बोलो बोलो
सर जैसे कि मैं उत्तराखंड से बिलोंग करता हूँ, वेरी रिमोट एरियाज, बट आई स्टडी इन CSI चंडीगढ़. As for dengue cases, what happen in our area, in Dehradun area, कि जिस समय डेंगू केसेस चलते हैं जुलाई अगस्त और इस समय मिल्क, जो गोट मिल्क होता है वो काफी, उसका रेट काफी हाई हो जाता है. लास्ट वीक में मैंने पता किया था, सम ऑफ माय रिलेटिव गेट डेंगू एंड द कॉस्ट ऑफ गोट मिल्क इज अबाउट 250 और 300 रुपीज पर केजी. तो मैंने अपने गांव में देखा सर, जब यूजुअली इन 1 ईयर और आई टॉक टू देम, लोगों ने गाय और गोट को पालना काफी कम कर दिया. और यूजुअली जैसे हमारे यहाँ जो जिस समय रिलीजियस ओकेजन होते हैं उस समय गोट का जो प्राइस है वो काफी इंक्रीज हो जाता है, 20,000 और 30,000. तो व्हेन आई आस्क पीपल कि आप अर्निंग कैसे करते हो, वो कहते हैं कि ये सीजन चल रहा है और इसी टाइम पे हम इसको अर्न कर सकते हैं. तो मैंने सर एक स्टार्टअप सुना, स्टार्टअप के बारे में पढ़ा था. 2 चीज मैं रिलेट कर रहा हूँ. वो क्या, उनका स्टार्टअप था पेट्रोल और डीजल रिमोट एरियाज में पहुंचाना. तो मेरा एक ऐसे आइडिया आया था, बट क्योंकि मैं इंजीनियरिंग बैकग्राउंड से था, मुझे बायोलॉजी इतना ज्यादा आई डोंट नो अबाउट सो मच बायोलॉजी, हाउ टू प्रिजर्व गोट मिल्क फॉर लॉन्ग टाइम. सो आई थिंक कि अगर हम कुछ इस तरह से लो कॉस्ट हम कुछ बना सके, डिवाइस बना सके कि हम उस गोट मिल्क को काफी दिनों तक सेव कर सके, तो वी कैन प्रोवाइड दैट डिवाइस और वी कैन से दैट टू एवरी विलेज कि जो लोग हैं कि उस गोट मिल्क को प्रिजर्व कर सके और हम उस गोट मिल्क को कहीं हायर उसमें जहां उसे ड्राइड फॉर्म में हम स्टोर कर सके. तो ये उनके लिए जो लोअर, जो जिनका कहते हैं कि सीजन चल रहा है कि हम अर्निंग कर सकते हैं, तो हम उनका उनकी सैलरी भी बढ़ा सकते हैं.
बिल्कुल सही कह रहे हो प्रवीण. बकरवाल लोग जो हैं कश्मीर के ऊपर के हिस्से में रहते हैं, बकरवाल जो बकरियां रखते हैं, बकरवाल उनकी कम्युनिटी का नाम है बकरवाल. तो वो लोगों को बहुत फायदा हो जाएगा, उनकी जिंदगी बदल जाएगी इस बात से तुमने जो कही अभी.
अगेन आई
और ये CSIO का काम है भाई, इंजीनियरिंग का, साइंटिफिक इंडस्ट्रियल इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स का जो काम है. कोई सोचो हीट एक्सचेंजर, कोई तरीका सोचो, लो कॉस्ट तरीका, कोई फ्रीज ड्राइंग का तरीका सोचो, कोई छोटा को लो कॉस्ट ड्रायर बनाओ, लो कॉस्ट हीट कूलिंग सिस्टम बनाओ. कोई तरीका तो सोचना पड़ेगा. I think this question, the other group that is going to work on that effect of.
I contacted her.
हाँ, तो उनसे बात करो.
आपको इसलिए थैंक यू बोलना चाहूंगा.
नहीं, बहुत अच्छी बात कही तुमने. और तुम्हारी बात से अगर बकरवाल लोगों की जिंदगी बदल गई, प्रवीण, तो you would have done your job today. They are some of the poorest people in our country. जो बकरियों को रखते हैं ना, वो सबसे गरीब लोगों में से होते हैं यार. तो इसलिए तुमने उनकी चिंता करी, ये बहुत अच्छी बात है. और अगर उनके समाधान से हमारी सोसाइटी बेटर होती है, then if we can develop some technology by which their milk can become accessible to more people for more longer time, I think we have done a great job. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Take care. Sleep early tonight. Sleep early, get up in the morning. That's what we have all realized is good for our health. So don't sleep too late. And you have to write a page, at least a page. Don't forget that. I'm expecting from all of you. Good night. God bless you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Bye-bye.
Good night, sir.
Good night. Good night. Good night. Keep this energy level. Keep this energy level. Keep this energy level. All the best.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
All the best. All the best. All the best. My respect to your family members for sharing this knowledge with you. And this is a day of tribute to them. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.